Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And if you're going to talk about all sorts of good stuff, you got to be talking about Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett is here, ladies and gentlemen. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I'm doing great. I got to say, I've been a little iffy on Watchmen, but last night's episode was, I thought, one heck of a great episode of TV. And I never thought I would say that about something Damon Lindelof was attached to.
You know what? That's good to hear, because I always watch Watchmen like the day later. So I'm going to watch the new episode of Watchmen this week. So you've just excited me.
It's amazing.
I really liked last week's episode, by the way. I thought last week's episode was pretty good.
All three have been great. I'm not going to tell you.
Okay, yeah, don't say anything. Don't say anything. We'll get into that just a little bit later. Hey, listen, guys, we do have a bunch of stuff that we need to talk about here today. And first of all, I got to mention, the casting for the new Batman movie keeps on rolling. John Turturro has been added. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Frozen absolutely crushed it at the box office this weekend. Could there actually be a Michael Jackson biopic? Tim Miller is saying he's not going to work with James Cameron again. What were the biggest movie news stories of the decade? We'll at least give some initial thoughts and all that. But before we get into our main topics, we're going to talk about something off the top here. I'm just going to let you guys know a little something here. For those of you who are regulars on the show, and I'll just mention this quick, we have now added a new way for you to send in a super chat-like question. You guys will notice that at the top line in the description of the video, there is a new link to a tip page. You can use that tip page to actually submit a tip and submit a question on the show. Here's the benefit for the John Campea YouTube channel. The benefit for the John Campea YouTube channel is that they don't keep 1/3 of it like YouTube keeps 1/3 of the super chats. So that's a benefit to the channel. The benefit for you guys is that that tip link is always there 24/7. So if you've got a question you want to submit for the show, you don't have to wait until the live stream starts. You can submit it anytime and we'll get around to it on the show, either on the main show or on a companion video or something like that, so you can do that. Yeah, I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. Okay, with that down, let's talk about this thing off the top. Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker is, of course, closing in. It's getting closer and closer with every day, Rob. Every day that passes, we're one day closer to the movie. I'm starting to get pretty hyped for it. It could be a terrible, terrible movie. Could be the greatest Star Wars movie of all time. We just don't know. I've not been super overwhelmed by the trailers, but they are just trailers. I've liked them, but I haven't been super overwhelmed by them. But they did just put out a new clip this morning on the Star Wars Twitter account. Rob, you pointed it out to me, actually. They put out a new clip that I didn't see a title for it, but I'm just assuming we can call the title "They Fly Now." That's just what I'm calling the title. The title of this clip is "They Fly Now," and I gotta say, while I personally have not been overwhelmed or blown away, I have liked the marketing so far. And it's just marketing. But I've not been blown away by it. You know this. I've talked about this.
Did you see that trailer they released about Star Wars fandom and the whole franchise yesterday?
Oh, yeah, that's I wouldn't. That's
like a celebration of Star Wars.
A little featurette.
Yeah.
That was very nice.
It was nice.
That was very nice. Okay, but that's not Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
No.
That's Star Wars.
Yeah.
So you guys know, if you've watched, I've not been jumping over the moon about the trailers. That's fine. God, I love this clip.
Me too.
And here's the funny thing. If you had just told me about the clip and described the clip to me, I probably would have gone, eh. But watching it, Rob, you said something that I think was very appropriate to it. And you were just like, I think you said, what is it? That's a very Star Wars clip or something.
I said it was a Star Wars line when he said they fly now.
They fly now. Like, it was just a very Star Wars-ish line.
Yeah.
And as somebody who hates the prequels, one of the things that I've always said I like about the prequels is the pod race scene. And of course, I love that Endor forest chase that we get in Return of the Jedi. This felt like a nice little mix of that. I like the dialogue. The first thing, though, Rob, that you pointed out to me was the score in it. That John Williams, that was awesome.
I mean, this was like the first time we heard John Williams score to picture, and I'm like, wow, and here's the thing I'm going to do. Like, I've been defending Kathleen Kennedy on my own YouTube show, and I'm putting away any Star Wars hate or any detraction I'm spending the month the lead up to this movie excited. all the rumors to the contrary. I think seeing that clip, I'm like, man, that's some Star Wars, and I can't wait. So I've at least for the next month until the morning of the 20th, because I will see it the 19th at the Chinese.
Right.
I'm going to be excited about Star Wars again. We got the Mando coming every week. You know, the Hot Toys keeps announcing new Rise of Skywalker figures. This clip shows up with new John Williams score. What's not to love, man? At least for a month.
Yeah, at least for a month. And look, again, just like me not loving the trailers doesn't mean the movie can't be great. And just because I love this clip doesn't mean the movie can't be terrible. But, I've taken a lot of crap from some people because I'm saying, I like the trailers. I think that there's some good stuff in the trailers, but yeah, they're not doing anything to blow my mind or to get me super excited just yet. I think they've had some. This just felt right. It felt like it has true Star Wars DNA peppered through it, from the music and the dialogue. I even thought the cinematography and the cuts and stuff like that.
Me too.
I thought were great. I loved it. And I know there's going to be a lot of people completely opposite from me. There's going to be a lot of people who love the trailers, and I don't love the trailers, but maybe didn't like this clip. But I'm telling you what, this is the best piece of marketing I've seen for this movie so far, personally.
I agree with you. If I have only one criticism, is I'm tired of desert planets.
We get a lot of desert.
One of the things about
we got in the Mandalorian too.
Yeah, like in the Empire Strikes Back. I understand the galaxy is full of desert planets. I get that, but I really liked one of the great things about Empire is we saw snow, we saw swamp, we saw asteroids, and we saw Cloud City. These different vistas and venues, and I feel one of the things that's sort of missing from this is different environments, and I liked the whole chase scene, but that's a small nitpick.
One thing I've always laughed about Star Wars is that it's like every planet in Star Wars has one climate. It's either a forest planet, or it is a swamp planet, or it is a desert planet. Anyway, I got a big kick out of it. Rob seemed to as well. Hey, it's a piece of marketing, so we're all going to have different opinions. How did you guys feel about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's move into our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, as always, you guys come up with our main topics by simply going anytime over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, fill out the form you see with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into our first main topic today. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Dennis Edison, who writes, "Hey, John and Rob, I know you talked last week about James Cameron and Tim Miller had a rocky time making the new Terminator movie, but I wanted to know if you saw what Miller has now publicly said, that he'll never work with James Cameron again. This is the second significant bridge that he has burned after departing Deadpool franchise because Ryan Reynolds wouldn't give him total control. What do you make of all this?" All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Edison, or Dennis, I should say. And yes, Tim Miller, who did such a great job with the first Deadpool movie, but it's come out in interviews in recent weeks that ultimately the reason he left was that Ryan Reynolds wouldn't give him total control of the film. Okay, so now he's left. We heard from James Cameron last week that Cameron and Tim Miller battled a lot over Terminator. And Cameron said, but that's the creative process. There's blood on the walls, but that's the creative process. Well, now Tim Miller has been asked if he'd ever worked with Cameron again. And this is what Tim Miller said. He said, "I can say no. But it has nothing to do with whatever trauma I have from the experience. It's more that I just don't want to be in a situation again where I don't have the control to do what I think is right. I just got an email last week from Jim who said, I know we clashed a little bit. I put it all down to two strong, creative people with differences of opinion, and I think it made the movie better. I'll be back in LA in December. Let's go get a beer." And that was James Cameron writing to Tim Miller, which, by the way, side note, kudos to James Cameron. That's a nice thing. Look, Rob, you and I have talked about this, that when you're making something creative, there can be clashing. I mean, if you got creative visions of people who care for a project and you're clashing, blah, blah, blah. I'll just say, this is a side note, kudos to James Cameron for writing to Tim Miller and saying, hey, we're just two creative people. We had playing. Let's go out and get a beer together. Kudos to you. I think that's nice. And kudos to Tim Miller for sharing that story. I think that's good too. But Rob, it does raise an interesting question here. that this is now two high-profile projects that Tim Miller is basically saying, I didn't have enough control, so I left Deadpool. I didn't have enough control, so I'm not going to work with James Cameron again. Is this a situation, do you think, that, well, the common denominator between both situations is Tim Miller? Or do you think this is just a situation where he happened to be, by coincidence, in two very unique circumstances? Deadpool, which took a lot of years and a lot of effort on Ryan Reynolds' part to get that thing to the point that Fox was going to greenlight it, and therefore he was going to have a bunch of control. And then just by circumstance, you happen to roll into a Terminator film where it was really made an icon by James Cameron, who was there as a producer. So do you think this is a Tim Miller issue? Do you think this is a Ryan Reynolds, James Cameron issue? Or do you think this is just an issue of, hey, just by fluke of circumstances, he rolled from one very unique situation in Deadpool to another very unique situation in Terminator? How do you see it?
Look, when you get two directors together on the same project, I know Cameron's a producer on this, but it's still, he's had to watch his baby, the franchise he created over the course of the last 2 decades, be used and turned into something by very different people, whether it was the TV show, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, whether it was Terminator 3, Terminator Salvation, Terminator Genesis. So James Cameron comes back to work on the Terminator franchise. Having two directors on a project is going to be difficult. And when you have the 98-pound gorilla, or what is the term?
100-pound gorilla?
100-pound gorilla.
Or the elephant in the room?
James Cameron's the elephant in the room. Like, he's the kind of guy. And Tim Miller, look, he made Deadpool 1. It was a big success. He left Deadpool 2, remember, because he apparently didn't want to work with Ryan Reynolds. And again, Ryan Reynolds is the person that carried Deadpool along and made it happen, really.
Yeah.
So Tim Miller has not been in a situation where he's been allowed complete creative freedom and to do his own project. And he's a very creative guy. You weren't at the Paramount presentation at CinemaCon.
Yeah, I missed that one.
But
I was ill.
I know you weren't feeling well. But Tim Miller came out and was jumping up and down like a little kid. He was so excited about Dark Fate. And they hadn't called it Dark Fate yet. It was just called something else. I don't think they'd named it Dark Fate by then. And he was very excited, kid in a candy store. So between April and now the release, a lot of time to work on a film. So I'm sure that's when the blood was on the wall. But I don't blame Tim Miller for not wanting to be in a situation where, as a director, he is no longer beholden to others, because what then happens is he can't finish doing his job. And I think that's been frustrating for him on both of these occasions. And I don't know what a Tim Miller only Terminator movie would have looked like. It might have looked different. And in Tim Miller's mind, he probably thinks it might have been better. And who knows, maybe it would have been.
But you gotta admit, though, with very few exceptions, no director has 100% control of their film.
No.
The people who pay for the movie and who pay the director's salary, they ultimately have final say. Again, with a few exceptions. There are a few exceptions out there. You know, if your last name is Spielberg or Nolan, you probably have a little, but for the most part, that's the creative experience. And don't you just need to find a way to work within that?
Well, I think you do. But with another director, and especially one of the most successful directors of all time,
yeah,
you're suddenly put into a position where, do you think the money? See, I agree. Making movies is a collective experience. It's a collaborative medium from the get-go. But at the end of the day, a director does carry a lot of power. I mean, even if you don't have final cut, people defer to the director most of the time. But when you have James Cameron, who are they going to defer to? You know, and here's Tim Miller, the guy who's out there on the front lines making this movie. And even James Cameron said, I think he showed up to set once or twice. So Tim Miller was the director of record who made this movie. But then who do you think was conferring with David Ellison and Paramount Brass and Skydance and Jim Giannopoulos, who runs the studio? It's not like he doesn't already have a long-standing relationship with Jim Cameron. So Tim Miller was probably sidelined and felt a little maybe betrayed. And I don't necessarily blame him, but, you know, when they brought James Cameron on to consult, you kind of had to expect that was what was going to happen.
And he is a producer of record on the movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Hey, well, anyway, guys, I thought this would be an interesting thing to make the topic of today's question of the day, because I wanted to put it to you guys and see what you thought about it, because I believe there's a lot of dynamics at play here. I don't think this is a simple question, but we relegate it down to a simple Twitter poll. but really, I think there's a lot more nuance to it here. But I simply ask you guys, with the John Campea Show question of the day, Tim Miller has now departed 2 franchises in a row over feeling like he wasn't given enough control. Deadpool and now Terminator. Is the problem Ryan Reynolds and James Cameron, or Miller himself? I put this up just before we started the show today. Right now, almost 2,000 of you have already voted. And right now, 77% of you are saying it's Tim Miller. He's the common denominator. 23% of you are saying, hey, listen, cut the dude some slack. Like, there's a lot of creative control being exerted over him by Cameron and Reynolds. And so 23% of you are saying that. And it's probably a situation, a lot of things in life, Rob, where the truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
Yes, as Robert Evans would constantly say.
Somewhere in the middle. So question is for you guys. What do you think about all that? Where do you think the responsibilities lie? Do you think it was just an unfortunate, sequence of circumstances for Tim Miller? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Davis Crump, who writes, "Hello from Kentucky, John." Well, hello, Davis. I was wondering if you've heard about the casting of John Turturro as Carmine Falcone for the Batman. I think it's a good casting, but I'm not crazy about it. What are your thoughts on this casting? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in. And the casting for the Batman just keeps right on rolling. Of course, we've got... I keep wanting to say Zazie Beetz, and it's not Zazie Beetz. Right. It's Rock and Roller's daughter. Why am I freezing? Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah.
Thank you. Zoe Kravitz is in there. We've got Wells. Jeffrey Wells is in there. I mean, the list just keeps growing.
Jeffrey Wright, sorry, not Jeffrey Wells, who's a film critic. It's a totally different guy. Right.
Jeffrey Wright in there. We've got Andy Serkis in there. They keep adding this talent, and now they've added John Turturro. Now, let me say this. A lot of people who watch limited numbers of movies, you'll be forgiven if when you think of John Turturro, the first thing you think of is that clowny government guy from Transformers or the Jesus. And for a lot of people, that might be the only things they really think of him from. The reality is this. John Turturro is an award-winning actor. This dude is great. When he's in the right role for him and he turns it on. There was just that recent HBO limited series, Something Night. I can't remember the name of the series, but he got Emmy nominations for that. He is fan-frickin-tastic in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? He's got a number of high-profile award nominations. This dude can act. And again, to me, Rob, when I look at something like this, it follows that pattern that they seem to be doing. Not getting the big, glory, top shelf names, but going for people who you may or may not realize it have incredible talent.
Yes.
And to me, this is a great move. I love this casting, so I'm all for it. Rob, what did you think about it when you heard about it?
I'm a huge fan of John Turturro all the way back to William Friedkin's 1985 To Live and Die in L.A., where he played the drug mule or actually not the drug mule, the counterfeit money mule for Willem Dafoe's counterfeiter Rick Masters that William Peterson's Richard Chance, his Secret Service agent, is going after. I love To Live and Die in L.A. John Turturro is great in To Live and Die in L.A. And that was the first time I learned who he was. And that was, how long ago was 1985, John? It was 34 years ago.
Oy.
And he's been turning in great performance after great performance. Now, I would consider him a character actor, not a leading man.
I agree.
And Carmine Falcone is a great place to put him, and I'm sure he's going to have a ball in that role. I mean, whatever he's going to do, it's going to be. And look what he did, like the Jesus, the Jesus. I mean, he's so great. I can't wait to see
a spin-off film.
I can't wait to see that movie, man. I'm hoping it's the Get Him to the Greek of sequels to.
Get to the
I
still don't like that movie.
I love Get Him to the Greek.
I wish I did.
Oh
wish it
man,
did.
For
those of you who don't know, a very poor spin-off of Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Look, as far as Big Lebowski spin-offs go, I hope what is the movie called? The Jesus Bowls Forever?
Jesus
I don't
Rolls.
know. The Jesus Rolls. It's called the Jesus Rolls.
I can't remember what the actual name of it is.
And I can't wait.
I think a lot of people are very curious about this movie. I am too. So the question here is, guys, what do you think about this casting? We think it's fantastic. Maybe you got some concerns about it. Maybe you think it's even better than we do. Jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Rozo's Gaming Headquarters, who writes, I'm like you. I'm thinking Frozen 2 is going to join the $1 billion club. And this is a promising start towards that goal. As of Sunday morning, which is when I am writing this question to you, according to Deadline, we are sitting at $130 million, $130 million, which is bigger than Frozen 1. It's significantly bigger than Frozen 1's opening weekend, by the way, which brought in $93.9 million over the 5-day holiday weekend. Yes, but it was a much smaller actual opening weekend. You don't actually count the 5-day weekends, but at any rate. Is this a great sign that Frozen 2 will join Endgame, Aladdin, Toy Story 4, The Lion King, and Captain Marvel in the $1 billion club? All right, thanks a lot for sending in the question. And yes, Frozen 2 has now opened in theaters. I saw it over a week ago. I really liked it. I thought it was really, really charming. And I even think the music in it is better than the music in the first one, notwithstanding Let It Go. That's separate. But I thought it was really great. But yeah, this weekend it waltzed into the theaters and it crushed. And it did significantly better on its opening weekend than Frozen 1 did, and Frozen 1 went on to be in the $1 billion club. Here's what we got. Frozen 2 came in the box office this weekend making $127 million, absolutely obliterating everything else. Ford v Ferrari made a very respectable $16 million. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, that's the Tom Hanks, which I still haven't seen.
I haven't either.
I think Ann and I are going to the LA Rams game tonight, and then I think we're going to go maybe try to catch a movie afterwards. Go catch a late show of that because, it's Tom Hanks. 21 Bridges came in at $9.3 million.
Yeah, no.
I guess not everything that the Russo brothers does turns into a $1 billion film. Anyway, Midway still hanging in there. Midway still hanging in there in the top 5 at $4.7 million. But Rob, the real story here, of course, is Frozen 2. Absolutely destroying Frozen 1's opening weekend box office, dominating it, stripping it all in. Listen, and the overall basic question is, and like I said, I like this movie very much. Does this thing bode well for it? Because it's not just the domestic opening box office. It is the highest opening for any Disney animated film in Chinese history as well. So it's holding up very well internationally. It did great domestically. Yeah, to me, I don't have a lot of doubt. I mean, look, anything can happen, absolutely, and it could fall short. But I'm feeling pretty good that Frozen 2 is going to join the $1 billion club. How do you feel about it, Rob?
Looks like that to me. I mean, you and I have always said, we've been saying for a year that Frozen 2 is probably going to join the $1 billion club. And I think it very well might. And look, that's good. What I like, it's great when any movie is a success, and so many people love this franchise. It's beloved, and when you have this kind of a beloved franchise, it's always better when the next installment's great, or that people love it. I'd rather live in a world where sometimes we forget. I mean, I read so much or watch so much negativity on YouTube. I think that we should celebrate when a movie like this does really well and people love it. Isn't that what we're going to the movies for?
Yeah, and again, I think it's a really good film. I think it builds well on the last one. A lot of great music, the whole bit. And kids are going to be bugging their parents to take them back to see this thing multiple times. And I think a lot of parents are just going to enjoy watching themselves. Question is, guys, how are you feeling about it? Now that we've seen Frozen 2 has done significantly better than Frozen 1 did on its opening weekend, are you feeling good about its chances to hit that $1 billion club? Yes or no? Why? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move on to our fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Jay-Z, who writes, Deadline is reporting that a Michael Jackson biopic is in the works. My question isn't whether or not it's a good idea to make it, but rather how big will it be? Bohemian Rhapsody made over $900 million, and Michael Jackson is quite possibly the biggest star to ever live. Do you think this could be a huge blockbuster hit, even with all the controversy that will undeniably surround it? All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, Jay-Z. And the first thing we should probably mention about this is that while it may be in the works, It is a far from greenlit project. Now, just so everybody is on the same page and we understand what's going on here, here's the basic gist of it. This comes to us from Variety. Bohemian Rhapsody producer Graham King has struck a deal with the Michael Jackson estate for the pop star's life and music rights, with plans to make a feature film based on both. King has tapped Gladiator and The Aviator screenwriter John Logan for the project. The film currently, now this is key, the film currently has no studio or distributor attached. So, here's our situation. We have the producer of Bohemian Rhapsody, which was great, by the way. He has secured the rights to make this movie. That just means he's got the rights to make the movie. As a producer, he has employed a screenwriter and commissioned a screenwriter to write a screenplay based on the directions that he gives. So we're going to get a screenplay. These are the first steps to trying to get a movie made. 95% of the movies, potential movies, die on the vine right there. Few move on. Could this actually happen? It absolutely could. Because you're right, Michael Jackson is arguably the biggest star of all time. I mean, you can make that argument. I'm not saying that's definitive, but you could make that argument. Here's the problem, and this is the same problem when people brought up shortly after Michael Jackson died. And brought up the question, I remember in one of my older shows asking, well, how quick are we going to get a biopic? And I said this at the time. This is like 9, almost 10 years ago now. I said, don't expect a biopic anytime soon. And the reason being is because a studio will not know what to do with it. Because there is a dimension of controversy in Michael Jackson's life. And I'm not here to get into the controversy, except that we all know that there is controversy. Did he or didn't he? And the nation seems to be as divided on that as to whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie or not. So he thinks it is, I think it isn't. So there you go. And I think the country is just as divided on that. And so as a movie studio, this is what I said again, almost 10 years ago. I said, the problem is a studio will not know what to do with this. If you ignore the controversy, you're going to piss a bunch of people off, saying, how dare you ignore that? If you portray the controversy and make it look like, if you portray in the movie that makes it looks like he was actually guilty of the things he was accused of, you're going to piss a lot of people off who insist he wasn't. And I said almost 10 years ago, I don't see a clear win for a studio. I don't see why a studio would want to touch this with a 100-foot pole, because I just don't know that there is a clear win there for a studio. And sure enough, we've gone almost 10 years with no biopic of Michael Jackson. So now we've got the Bohemian Rhapsody guy, who just did a great job with Bohemian Rhapsody, and he wants to get one done. What is interesting here, Rob, is that he's gotten the rights from the Jackson estate, which tells me that the movie he pitched to the Jackson estate made them feel comfortable, which also tells me that any such movie probably won't touch much of the controversy. Again, I'm just speculating. I don't know that for sure. But I think the same problem arises here. I think the whole reason why the last line of this story here in Variety, the film currently has no studio distributor, because if it were not for the controversy surrounding Michael Jackson, a studio would have attached itself to this project before, the ink even dried on Graham signing the contract for it. He would have had a distributor. He would have had financiers coming, throwing money at him to get this movie made. But we're not there yet. And I think a lot of people and a lot of studios are going to step back and see what kind of movie are you going to kind of put together here and how is this going to turn out? And I still think there is a good chance this movie never sees the light of day, because I just don't know how you approach it. Even me, Rob, if you're to ask me, okay, John, you're in charge. What do you do with the Michael Jackson biopic? I leave it on the shelf. I don't touch it. I simply do not touch it, because there is no way to make this movie without pissing off half of the audience. Do it one way, you're going to piss off this half. Do it the other way, you're going to piss off the other half. And I'm not taking a position. I'm just saying there's no win here. Now, money can help you overcome a lot of fears. And if some studio thinks there is a clear way for them to make money, they may get involved in it. But Rob, I just don't know. I think this is one that the studios, before jumping on board this, are going to be very, very cautious about. I don't know. How do you see this playing out Do you think this will actually move forward and happen at some point? And if so, which direction do you think they're going to go?
I have to say, I mean, I'm in wholehearted. I completely agree with you, because I think there's just elements to this story, the controversies that we've all heard, the documentaries on HBO, but also, you know, there's something. As much as Michael Jackson is such a beloved figure by so many people, especially around the world, and he means so much to so many people and did for so long, but especially in the latter portion of his life, there's a lot of very difficult things to address. Even if there was no controversy and you addressed him as a person, you know, his idea, the plastic surgeries and the things like that, there's a lot of psychological elements to this film that are directly opposed to the joy in the music that I think make this a really difficult project to tackle. And I also think ultimately, from a filmmaking perspective, who do you get to play Michael Jackson? I don't know if there's even an actor who exists on the planet that's capable enough to do both the dramatic elements and the dancing elements. I mean, we can find, sure, there's been some amazing actors who have done roles in the past where they sing and they dance. You're a song and dance man yourself. But I don't think, I think there's a lot of issues surrounding this movie that make it almost untenable as a film. I could be wrong, but the controversy first and foremost, but second of all, from a production standpoint, because Rami Malek worked so well as Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
I just don't see. I mean, it's a tough role, man. That's a hard role to play.
And then the question is, how do you play it?
How do you play it?
It's a big hot ball. Guys, listen, let me ask you. You're in charge of a studio, and they say, hey, somebody got the rights to it, and there's a producer developing the movie. Should we get on board with it? Honestly, what do you say? Do you say, yeah, let's invest our reputation and our money and get involved with this? Or do you say, no, let's keep a distance from this? Or do you say, well, let's wait and see the script? But even then, I don't know if that solves anything. How do you guys approach it? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our fifth and final main topic of the day for this Monday. And our fifth and final main topic today gets sent in to us by Geeky Gator, who writes, hey, John and gang. 2019 is almost over, and barring any big stories in these last 2 months, what do you think have been the biggest news stories of the decade? And I'm going to assume we're talking about it within the realm of movies and the movie world and stuff like that. And Rob, it's true. I got to start putting together my best films of the decade list. So I got to do that here pretty soon. But it's an interesting question here for a Monday. It's like, as we look back on the year, the decade that was, what have been the most significant movie news stories that we have got? And I want to propose 2 of them.
I was going to say, I've got 2.
All right, I'm going to propose 2, and I'm going to bet at least one of them overlaps. The one, and I think this is the second biggest one, and we don't think much of it now, but believe me, I believe we will look back on this and consider it, yeah, one of the most significant pieces of news story in the entire decade. And that was the groundbreaking, record-breaking box office run of Avengers Endgame. You have to understand. It's like, what, a box office record? It beat a record that stood for nearly a decade. I mean, for 20 plus years, one of 2 movies held the number 1 spot, and that was either Titanic or that was either Avatar. Both James Cameron's movies. But for nearly 2 decades, James Cameron stood atop that. Nobody touched it. Nobody touched him. For a movie to come out and actually, for the first time in nearly a decade, become the new all-time lead, because you think over the years, box office going up, inflation, blah, blah, blah. Some movie in the last 10 years would have topped it, and they didn't. And I don't think that we as film fans appreciate how huge of a deal that it is that a record that stood for nearly a decade was finally beaten. And I know that's a kind of a what have you done for me lately kind of pick because it just happened this year. I get that. But honestly, I think as more time goes on, we will look back and understand just how big of a deal that was. So for me, and understanding movie-going habits and the shifting tides of the business, Avengers Endgame taking the number 1 box office worldwide spot record is a massive, massive story. So I've got that as my number 2. As far as what I think the biggest piece of movie world news is, I think you can all guess what I'm going to say. I was in the converted storage closet at my AMC studio. Most people on my staff had checked out for the day. I was still puttering around the office, vacuuming. Yes, I did all the vacuuming. Vacuuming up the studio and stuff like that. When I looked at my phone and the news had dropped, Disney had bought Lucasfilm. Star Wars is simply the biggest, most important film franchise in the history of the business. And we all thought it was gone. And Disney comes in, one of the bigger studios in the world, comes in, buys it, and with the announcement that there's going to be more Star Wars movies and blah, blah, blah. Now, everybody can have their opinion about what happened after that. But the fact of the matter is, that was like a JFK moment. I was not alive during JFK, but that, you ask people who are of an older generation than us, they all remember where they were when they heard that JFK had been shot. For people of film fans of my generation and younger, I will always remember where I was when I heard that Disney had bought Lucasfilm. It's just one of those moments to me. So regardless of whether you're a huge fan or not a fan of all of what happened after that is irrelevant. That news, there's no other piece of movie news that I remember as much other than maybe when I heard that Heath Ledger had passed away. Because I remember exactly where I was when I got the news that Heath Ledger passed away. But I think it's that. So the two ones I'm going to propose to you guys are Endgame breaking the all-time box office record and the news that Disney had taken over Star Wars. Those are my two, Rob. The floor is yours, sir.
It's funny because when I first heard the question, I was thinking more of I was thinking about it as the entire decade. Right. What are the stories of the decade? Meaning not like a single news story. I would say what you just said, if you're looking at single news stories, absolutely. But I'm thinking that when you look back, say 50 years from now, and we look at the teens, the beginning of this millennium, I think the two news stories are, one, for the entertainment industry, the rise of streaming services. I watched this happen when I was working on the Star Trek: The Next Generation Blu-rays. Everybody was excited, like, ooh, they're going to be huge sellers. But while we worked on those over the 3 years that I was doing all those documentaries, streaming services just took off. And it was a game changer. And the sale of physical media started, that's when it really started to plummet. But streaming services are going to affect us and affect the whole entertainment business. It's been a complete sea change. The second biggest story is Disney under Bob Iger's leadership. Not just acquiring Lucasfilm, but acquiring Marvel, their continued relationships with Pixar, leading up to launching their own streaming service. Now, I would say streaming services probably come first, but again, John, I'm speaking about the whole decade. Like in terms of the entertainment industry holistically, what matters the most if we look back? And I think those two things are probably the most significant. And they're a big thing, but Bob Iger's Disney acquiring Fox, launching their streaming service, having the MCU, leading into the Endgame situation. There's so many individual news stories, but Lucasfilm in 2012, I think that this is a huge, significant decade. And I'll say that one of the things that I think is also a distant third maybe is that movies and entertainment are still going strong. Everyone's like, well, the demise of movies, video games and new entertainment systems are going to replace. No. Dramatic, whether you're watching streaming shows or movies or going to the theater or watching films on streaming services, we're still getting great movies. And Hollywood, for all the changing stuff that's happening, there's great indie movies being made that are going to live on streaming services, but there's great spectacle films being made for theaters. And I think what's really great is if you're a fan of this kind of entertainment, it's as strong as it's ever been. It's not going anywhere, and we're really seeing great stuff. And moving into the 20s, I'm pretty excited about what's coming down the pike.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, I think I like your picks a lot. Like those are two huge things. So question here for you guys is simply this. When you look back on the decade it was, what do you think were the most significant stories of the decade? Maybe you agree with a couple of our picks. Maybe you want to say some other things. I mean, there are a couple of other big things I think about, the shootings at the Dark Knight Rises screening. That's a big one as well. There could be a lot of different things. What do you guys think? Jump down into the comment section below. Tell us, what do you think were a couple of the biggest movie news stories of the decade. All right, guys, listen, with all that down and out of the way, we're now going to take a short break before we go over and take the questions that you guys have sent in and submitted. We're going to get to those in just a second, but if you will indulge us for just a couple of minutes, we are going to, as we do every single day, just take a couple of minute break here, stretch our legs, rest the vocal cords, refill our drinks and all that kind of stuff. So if you will hang tight with us and indulge us for just a couple minutes, we will be right back. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes. Back. Thank you, everybody, for your indulgence as we took a little bit of a break there. And now let's jump on over and start taking your comments and questions that you guys have sent in using both the Super Chat feature on YouTube and, of course, the tipping system. So thank you to all you guys who've been using the tipping system. And just so you know, it might throw you off. The way my list here works, I need to go from the bottom to the top. So it's going to look weird that instead of scrolling down, we're scrolling up. But you guys will adjust to it. All right. The very first one today came from Ann Campea, who wrote, "Ann is the best." Well, I'm going to say there's a little bit of bias there, honey, but who am I to disagree? All right, we move on now. Ryan writes, better Brad Pitt performance in Glorious Bastards or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? I am personally leaning towards Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And Rob, I got to say, I agree. I prefer Inglourious Bastards as a movie overall, actually by a lot. But I actually thought Brad Pitt's performance was even better in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Which one do you pick?
Well, the one in Inglourious Bastards is a little bit more, let's say, stylized.
Ratsy.
So, I mean, I love Inglourious Bastards.
Me too.
And they made a hot toy of him from that movie.
Really?
Yes, they did. And I gotta say, I gotta go with Inglourious Bastards because I love it.
All right. I just love the performance of his in
no, it's a great performance. I just have so much fun with.
All right, Jerome Lim tipped $50. And by the way, guys, for those of you who may not know, I started a new thing where if you actually tip or super chat $50 or more, I won't just answer your I won't answer your question here in the video. I will actually create your own standalone video answering your question. So if you look on the front page of the John Campea YouTube channel, you're going to see a new playlist down near the bottom that's called User Submitted Topics, where I address this question. But the question that Jerome Lim sent in was, I saw your concern regarding the COPPA, that's the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, that becomes effective. Well, it's actually already in effect. But January 1st, 2020, do you have any updates to your channel? I've seen other YouTuber videos about this and wanted your ideas. Yeah, so quick, short notes. I'm worried about it. I'm going to see how it's going. I'm consulting with a lawyer. But anyway, I did like a 6 or 7 minute video answering Jerome's question, and you can find that down below. Thanks for sending that in, Jerome. Ian Owendu just tipped $2. Thank you so much, Ian, for doing that. CYX sends in, hello, John. I honestly think that network TV is dead nowadays. All the shows with the most buzz and views tend to be either streaming or cable shows, and they tend to sweep up the Emmy Awards. Will network TV be able to survive in the coming years? Well, listen, make no mistake about it. The cable is going away, but it's not going away anytime immediately soon. Keep that in mind. And also don't forget, the actual most watched shows, most of them are still on cable. I mean, look, the amount of shows that watch like NCIS and like these is crazy, their numbers. Absolutely crazy. Eventually going away? Yes. Going away tomorrow? No. Rob, any thoughts on that?
No, it's the same. You know, as the demographic that watches these shows ages out, you know, the people that are usually watching network shows is going to change. As we get older, the people that watch streaming or premium cable shows is going to take over.
And there is still a lot of really great. There is still, there's a lot of trash, but there's still a lot of really great shows on
I still like the Blacklist.
I love Blacklist, actually. I'm behind on that a couple episodes now that I think about it. Okay. Jean Seb writes, hi, John, and all your friendly comrades. No question for me, just trying your new tipping. You deserve all my money. Keep up the good work every day. Thank you. Well, thank you for that. And what he's referring to, of course, is that by using the tipping system, of course, a much bigger chunk of what you are donating to the channel to keep the channel going actually stays with the channel, whereas the YouTube Super Chats, which are great. And if you like using YouTube Super Chats, believe me, we're so grateful that you're supporting the channel, but YouTube keeps a third of it. So that's just the one little thing. So we're happy for everybody who wants to support the channel on every level. So thank you for that, man. Kal-El writes, supporting the show. Love you guys. Thank you so much, Kal-El. We appreciate that, man. And thanks for sending that in, dude. Buck Jody writes, it will be nice to know my occasional tips will go a little further thanks to Stream Elements. And yeah, that it is very helpful already, Buck. So thank you so much for that, dude. We appreciate it very much. Billy Brenner writes, is this the Snyder Cut version of tipping the show? This has got to always work in Snyder Cut somehow, some way. Snyder Cut's got to be worked into the conversation. I suppose on some level it is, Billy. But anyway, thanks for doing that, man. Mohammed writes, The Irishman, Then Marriage Story, 2 of the biggest Oscar contenders, will be available on Netflix in the next 2 weeks. Not much credit is given to Netflix on this. I think for a lot of part, Mohammed, is that there's a couple things. One, I think it's that I don't believe either one of these films were made specifically for Netflix. Like Netflix didn't develop either of these movies and whatever. They're just movies that at one point needed a distributor and Netflix picked them up. And yes, all kudos to them for that. It does point to the thing, though, that Rob, you and I have talked about this, is that Marriage Story doesn't look like a movie that was going to blow up the box office, regardless of how good it might be. Same is true of The Irishman. I think there's a lot of question marks about how well it would have done at the box office relative to its incredibly huge thing. But do you think like Netflix does deserve a little bit more kudos for this, for at least eyeing really good quality and picking them up?
Oh, 100%. Like, we've always ripped on these movies that Netflix has picked up. I mean, a lot of the people that think that Netflix movies that get made, that they made them, is untrue. They're acquiring them from other places. Now, what happened with these movies, as you astutely pointed out, they were developed and made elsewhere, and Netflix picked them up. Nobody wanted to make The Irishman. Nobody could make the economics work. And by Netflix picking it up, it's not contingent on box office success. And they're going to have it forever. So if it becomes something people watch over and over again, like Goodfellas, for the next couple of decades, that was a huge investment for them that paid off.
All right. Next up comes to us from I do not writes, I usually can't be on the live chat to submit super chats, so this is much better. Again, that's one of the advantages of the tip link, is that you can use it 24 hours a day to send us something. So thank you for that. I do not. I appreciate that, man. All right. James Welsh writes, Disney got rid of the Siamese song because it's racist, but they ignored real life racist history. In the time Lady and the Tramp was set, there were the Jim Crow laws. They show a black woman married to a white guy in a time when it was actually illegal. And Rob, that's something we've talked a lot about in the balancing of, when talking about this sort of content, the balancing of what is appropriate and not appropriate versus what was actually going on in the real world that day, because art is, of course, to some degree, a reflection of the environment that it lives in. Like, how would you address that?
Well, I think, that made... I watched the Lady and the Tramp live action movie, and I was not a big fan of it, but I thought it was really distracting, to be honest, that they showed an intermarriage, because I'm like, wait a minute. The time this took place, it was not exactly the most acceptable thing in the world.
Well, what was that movie with Joel Edgerton and Ruth Negga?
Right,
where it was actually, they literally went to prison because they loved each other.
Yeah, and I was distracted by that in the movie. However, I appreciate what they were trying to do, absolutely. But you remove one thing to be racially sensitive or politically sensitive or whatever, but if you do something else that then undermines the historical accuracy of something, and I know it might seem silly in a movie like Lady and the Tramp, but it's kind of the same thing. You want the horrible injustices people suffered should not be forgotten, and they need to be addressed in all different sorts of ways.
But I guess you do have to be careful when you're making a piece of content that is specifically for children, and there's been a lot of horrible things in history. We don't address all of them at once, but it is an interesting question. It's a really interesting question.
It really is. Like, where do you go? I mean...
All right. Next one up, Elko writes, hey, John, we already know there is a second season being filmed for The Mandalorian. How many seasons do you think that we will get? Greetings from the Disney Plus testing ground in the Netherlands. Hey, you guys got it first, which everybody else in the world, including us here in North America, are a little jealous. It's way too early to tell. Like, for all we know, this might just be a little... Mandalorian might be their testing field. They might have a specific story for 3 seasons, and that's it, regardless of how successful it is. So, honestly, I have no idea. I don't have the slightest guess. Because a lot of shows is contingent upon their success, but other shows might be just contingent about how it fits into their overall plan, and they may want to move on from The Mandalorian after season 2 or after season 3. And so I don't even have the slightest guess right now. Rob, do you have any sort of a...
I really don't. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, Disney Plus right now is sort of a finite streaming service. They don't exactly have the same amount of content dropping that, say, Netflix does. So it's going to be interesting. They might want to keep The Mandalorian in constant production. Let's just keep a Mandalorian episode dropping every week.
Well, let's not forget, we got other Star Wars shows coming too, besides all the Marvel shows.
Right.
I mean, we got Obi-Wan, we've got the Rogue One, the Cassian Andor show. They're going to do more. So, I mean, it's
and all the Marvel streaming shows.
And on top of that, so it's going to be interesting to see how it fits into their overall plan. That'll have a lot to do with it. Anonymous writes, hey, Gio, help me settle this debate. Comic-Con San Diego needs to move to Vegas. Honestly, it should have happened a while ago. I am selfish to think this way because I never can get a badge. Vegas makes so much sense and will give so many more a chance to go. Dude, you're preaching to the choir. I've been preaching the same thing forever. I love San Diego desperately. I visit there a couple of times a year, including Comic-Con, and it is fabulous. But the inconvenient truth of it is this: San Diego is simply not big enough, and it does not have the infrastructure to properly support a convention the size of Comic-Con. You have a ridiculous system where people have to enter a lottery just to see if they can get a hotel room. Their convention center is walking like you're packed into a can of sardines. The Vegas Convention Center is literally 3 times the size of San Diego's convention center. They have 15 times the amount of hotel rooms, far more places to eat. It is just a better suited place. But Rob, you've heard me preach on that for a while.
Look,
you
man,
got a nostalgia connection to San Diego.
I've gone to 31 Comic-Cons in San Diego. I love the San Diego Comic-Con partly because of the San Diego setting, but I also realize that the San Diego setting is not the convention itself. I like hanging out with my friends in the Gaslamp District and the parties that go on, but I think for a convention, even I have to admit that San Diego has become less pleasant than it probably could be, and that's due to the size of the convention.
Yeah, and the lack of facilities to facilitate it. I mean, it's just that. Andrew Gifford writes, John, could the Barney movie surprise by leaning into horror or at least more adult themes? Looking at Daniel Kaluuya's career, who, by the way, is so good in Queen and Slim. Going weird might justify the bizarre choice to reboot Barney. Listen, this is all based on the Marvel executive making the stupid comment, with our new Barney movie, we are going to surprise and subvert expectations. It's a freaking guy in a purple dinosaur costume. But I'll tell you what, they'll never do it. But if they did and went horror and twisty, I would totally take back everything I said about that Marvel guys, or the Mattel guys, I should say, the Mattel guys' comments about Barney. I would take it all back. I don't think there's any chance in hell they do it, but it would be interesting. Rob, you think they could?
Dude, I never thought that I would be excited for a Fantasy Island movie. But looking what they're leaning into and turning it into something it wasn't, I'm like, they do that with Barney and make Barney like that show,
I'm interested.
I'm in. If Barney's some crazy, like, psycho, if it's the Tyler Durden of that show, and I'm in.
Make it a Talking Tina
of
a Twilight Zone.
You
could get me on board.
I mean, they could make anything cool. With a twisted enough mind behind it, sure, why not?
All right, next up, we've got Mr. TJ Lynn, who writes, who sends in a $50 one. So this is one that I made its own video for. You can find it down in that playlist. But he did ask, first saw you back in 2006 when you reviewed The Departed, awesome, and Borat, laughing myself sick. I thought I was going to die. How do you think they hold up today? Love this new feature because my country doesn't support super chat features yet. Anyway, thank you for sending that in, TJ Lynn. And yes, I did make a standalone video on this last night. You can find it down, but I'll just give you the quick Coles notes. I love both of these movies desperately. I think Departed stands up a little better. I think Departed stands up better than Borat does. That's just kind of my take on it. Rob, if you had to pick which one stands up better, I mean, I think they're both fantastic, but which one do you think stands up better?
Well, I think, the thing about Borat was those kinds of movies become big for the time that they come out. They become so indelible to that. Whereas The Departed has more of a universal appeal for a much longer period of time, because there's people are going to be like, oh yeah, I used to love Borat. It's funny. But I do think that The Departed has more of a longevity, although I think people are going to look back at Borat. It's still a movie where people go, wow, that was groundbreaking stuff.
Especially when you watch it for the first time.
Yes.
But again, guys, I made a standalone video of that. You can find that down below.
By the way, can I just shout out, Sacha Baron Cohen dropped a 25-minute video this weekend speaking about responsibility in terms of social media and what do the big tech companies have to deal with in terms of responsibility to the public at large. Everybody should watch his speech. It was amazing.
It was really, really good. Anyway, next up, Andrew Gifford writes, watched Rebel Without a Cause, nice, and had an epiphany. James Dean was born to play Cyclops in the MCU. What do you think, John? Should James Dean be cast as Cyclops in the X-Men reboot? It is... Man, this whole thing about, for those of you who don't know, of course, they've cast James Dean in this movie where they're just doing a digital recreation of James Dean, which I think is the most ridiculous, stupid thing ever. But man, don't put it past him. I'll say this. I'll say something controversial. I don't think James Dean was a good enough actor to play Cyclops. I know that's a little bit heretical to say, but I don't think. Anyway, Rob, what would you think?
Well, look, we have to deal with technological issues going forward that we're not dealing with. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I object to digitally recreating people that are no longer with us to act in movies for today. I think it's exploitation. I don't think it devalues the individual. That said, I think James Dean could have made a fine Cyclops in a 50s X-Men movie, even though the X-Men didn't exist back then, but I hope they don't ever do something like that.
Yeah. All right. Zayn writes, just finished Breaking Bad, and this show is freaking great. Probably my second favorite show of all time, next to Game of Thrones. And regarding the Turturro casting in Batman, interesting. Thanks, John, for all you do, and I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for that. And listen, yeah, Breaking Bad. Now, Breaking Bad makes a lot of people upset. Is not in my top 5 favorite shows of all time. I do like the show very much. I am very pro Breaking Bad. Don't misinterpret me. But Rob, I find a lot of people have that show very, very high up. How does Breaking Bad stand for you?
I got to tell you, man, I did not watch it when it was on, and I bought the series in the special edition 50-gallon drum that it came out in.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. And plus it goes with my Breaking Bad 6-scale action figures. But I don't think I've binge watched anything faster. I was so absorbed. I was so invested. I was so surprised by that show. And it is absolutely one of my favorite TV shows I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's one of those you got to watch. You got to watch it.
If you haven't watched it, you just don't get it.
All right, next up. Mr. TJ Lynn writes, best of the decade so far for me, because I got to get my best of the decade list here pretty soon. Number 1, La La Land. Number 2, The Social Network. I knew Rob would like that one. Number 3, Midnight in Paris. You know what? I wasn't a huge Midnight in Paris fan.
Oh, dude, I love it.
I know a lot of people do. Number 4, Gone Girl. Love Gone Girl. Number 5, Crazy Rich Asians. Number 6, Nice Guys. Number 7, Prisoners. Number 8, Ready Player One. Number 9, Silver Lining Playbook. Number 10, The Ghost Rider with Ewan McGregor.
I love that
That's
movie.
also got Pierce Brosnan in it.
Yeah.
And that was a nice little film.
Yeah,
actually.
Roman Polanski directed that.
Very interesting, eclectic mix of films in there, TJ Lynn. I like your list, and you will be seeing my list here pretty soon. I'll get Rob to put a list together as well. Mine's going to look very different from yours, but I like a lot of the films you got on your list there, man. All right, next up, Stardust Bandow writes, howdy, JC and crew. I'm curious about what remake you guys hope will come about in the near future with modern technology that could actually make the source material better. My pick will be Maximum Overdrive. Ooh, that's a good pick.
That's a really good pick.
Maximum Overdrive. The original's a guilty pleasure. Thanks all with the goblin face on the I like your pick. I like it very much. The only pick, I like it almost as much as my pick. Rob knows what I'm going to say. My pick, actually, that would be ripe for a remake and really benefit from modern technology is, of course, the Citizen Kane of action films, which is, of course, Megaforce. Megaforce, life is like a wheel. It all comes around. You remake that poor man's G.I. Joe, a total rip-off bargain bin version of G.I. Joe, but it's a huge guilty pleasure of mine. I go Megaforce. Rob, which one, if you could wave your wand and just get remade now that would really benefit from a modern technology, what would you say?
Okay, if you guys have never seen this, it's a Franco-Italian co-production. It's a science fiction movie that was made, I think, in 1965 called Wild Wild Planet. Now, if you've never heard of Wild Wild Planet, run, don't walk, and go to YouTube right now and type in Wild Wild Planet trailer and tell me that you don't want to see a modern version of this movie. Because by God, I've been trying to get Warner Archive to put it out on, I mean, they put out The Green Slime on Blu-ray. Why don't they put out Wild Wild Planet on Blu-ray? Watch it now.
All right, next up, Callie writes, hey, John and crew, just wanted to support you all with the new tipping system, so keep up the amazing work. Thank you so much for that, Callie. Also, I love Aaron and Chris. We love Aaron and Chris, too. I think they are a great addition to the show. I just wish they would be on more days throughout the week. Well, you know, I mean, they're great, and I would love to have everybody in all the time. Aaron, of course, is a very busy actress, and Chris has got all that cool stuff going on with Nerdwire and stuff, so... but you will continue to see them. Absolutely, you will continue. And No Pants Thursdays.
I miss Chris, man.
Yeah, you don't work with Chris anymore. We'll figure it out. We'll get that. That'll be popped up another time. Mr. TJ Lynn writes, your show has helped me losing 17 kilograms from 122 kilograms to 105 kilograms this past 2 months. I listened to the show to kill the boredom during an hour and a half long treadmill. Still a long way to 70 kilograms, my ideal weight. I'm just 170 centimeters. Wish me luck. Well, clearly Mr. TJ Lynn lives in one of the sophisticated worlds that uses the metric system. But that aside, hey man, listen.
You mean the rest of the planet?
You mean the whole rest of the world? Where it makes sense. 0 degrees, water freezes. 100 degrees, water boils. It's just a good system. Anyway, hey, listen, man, good on you. Believe me, like that is not an easy thing that you're doing.
Congratulations.
And the fact that you let us come along with you on those long treadmill walks.
Can you imagine what the 4-minute break in the show does? Like when he did you go faster because the John Campea logo's playing? Is that where you like put the?
Yeah, you really start. You hype up.
I'm
going to
think about that every 4-minute break we have. I'm going to be like,
think about you on that treadmill. All right. Next up, Charlie Jones writes, Netflix discussion. Want to talk a little bit about two things. Movie The King with Timothée Chalamet and Robert Pattinson. Pattinson is so much fun, and Chalamet looks like the young Sith evil stud. Show You season 2 around the corner. Still can't wait. Season 1 was shook. I don't know what that means.
I watched You.
You know, Anne got hooked on that because one of the girls from Pretty Little Liars. Now, this is the show about the guy who stalks the girl, and is that what You is about?
Yeah.
Okay. That's got one of the girls, Shay something from Pretty Little Liars, who's part Filipino, so Anne loves her, of course. So she just raves about that show. I've never seen 1 minute of it. But Anne absolutely raves. You've seen it?
I watched the whole thing. I would call it a guilty pleasure. Look, I love anything I'll watch any serial killer show. And this was a different serial killer show. And I actually was surprised by where it wound up. I was like, oh, all right. I'm going to watch season 2. Bring it on. Does
it have like a good ending to the season? Does it lend itself to making you want to go in and watch season 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
All right. I'll because Anne's been raving about it. Now we got Charlie's talking it up, and you're okay. Maybe I'll check it out one of these days. Maybe I'll have to do that. All right. Next up, Marie Seafring writes, trying tipping the tipping link. Who wins a grown-up Jack from The Incredibles 2 or Thanos with just the Power Stone, not the full gauntlet?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because here's the thing about Jack. He's just growing more powerful.
Right.
I mean, look at us. We're discussing the actual theoretical limits of power in an animated baby character. Shut up. All right. I don't know, because theoretically, we don't know what the cap of his power is. I mean, he could become the next Franklin Richards for all we know.
I think even Thanos is not immune to the cuteness of babies. So I think Jack could mount a stealth attack when Thanos is completely, his guard is down. Because look at how he treated young Gamora. Yeah. You know, he held her hand. He was tender with her. I think Thanos would make the mistake of being tender with Jack, and then bam!
He hiccups, the laser eyes, decapitates Thanos. Just like, you know what? With just a Power Stone thing, I'm going to lean Jack. Again, because there's no theoretical limit to his ability at this point. These are the important topics, ladies and gentlemen, that you will get deep dive analysis of when you watch the John Campea Show.
Right here.
All right. Next up, Morris Codes writes, so out of context question, did you see Into the Unknown or Show Yourself live on stage? No, the one they did when I was at these are both songs from Frozen 2. The song that the cast did live on, when I was at D23, the main cast of Frozen came out on stage and they did a live performance of Some Things Never Change. Some Things Never Change. It's a good song. Not as good as Into the Unknown. I would have loved it if why am I freezing on the girl's name, the singer?
Dina Menzel.
Thank you very much. Yes, or Adele Dazeem, as John,
Adele Dazeem,
as Johnny would call her. I wish she would have come out on stage and sang, because I love that song. Into the Unknown's a great song, but I didn't get to hear either of those. The one they sang was Some Things Never Change, and it was a great performance. It was actually really, really good. All right, Marie Seekring writes, tipping was easy. Please use this time to say more about it. All right, thank you, Marie. I will follow your instructions. Again, for those of you guys, top line of the video description is the link to the tipping page, and you can use that page to support the channel and to submit your question, and you can do it 24/7 and it'll get answered in a video. So anyway, thank you for giving me the time to talk about it, Maria. And more importantly, when you support the channel, more of what you support actually stays with the channel, as opposed to like 1/3 of it being taken by YouTube. But for those of you who love using Super Chat, I'm not trying to dissuade you. Thank you for any way you support the channel. You keep us going, so thank you for that. All right, another Skywalker writes in and he sends in $100. Thank you for that, Another Skywalker. So, of course, I made Another Skywalker's question into its own video. Again, you can see it down in the playlist below. But just to read off what he wrote, pretty disheartening to learn that YouTube was taking 1/3 of what I donated to the show. I would have still donated, but it would have been nice for them to disclose what they were talking. Can you put up the link with every show? I know I'll lose it. Okay, so no, I did not make a standalone video. Yes, I take that back. But yes, what you will see moving forward is the top of the video description of all the shows moving forward. There will be the link there. So it's very easy to find. It's very easy to see. Again, nothing changes with the first part of the show. The first part of the John Campea Show, nothing changes. We take all of our main topics from you guys that you submit on the forum for free. That's great. And that's the main part of the show, and that hasn't changed. We've just kind of thrown a little bit of curveball into how we do the second half of the show. And thank you to all you guys who have been taking advantage of that. And Another Skywalker, again, thank you for the support, man. It's amazing, and thank you for helping us do
also
what we do.
If I could just speak to that, YouTube does put up all of the infrastructure, and what they've built is an amazing, amazing way for allowing us to do what we do. And while I don't want to be some corporate shill, the kind of infrastructure that reaches worldwide, we don't pay for that. We just use it. Yeah. So it's a way that we can actually sort of pay for what we're using.
Actually, and that's what I said in one of the standalone videos below. I mentioned like, hey, listen, YouTube keeps 50% of all the ad revenue. They're the ones who go out and get the sponsors.
Right.
They're the ones who sign the contracts. They're the ones who provide the platform. They're the ones that provide the bandwidth. They're the ones who put the ads on our thing. They're the ones who make it possible for YouTubers to make any revenue. I got no problem with them. And even though they keep 1/3 of Super Chat things, which I think might be a little excessive, but even then I don't blame them. They're creating the system. They're paying for all the back end. I get it. So me using like this tipping feature is in no way a complaint or a protest against YouTube. It's just a little bit better for me as a creator. And
me too.
Yeah, and YouTube, and but still totally grateful for the free platform that YouTube provides, and they got to make money some way, and I'm not holding that against them. All right. Anyway, Another Skywalker, again, thank you for the support, man. We really appreciate that around here, man, and thank you for using the new system. All right. Suthius writes, hey guys, to fellow viewers, Mr. Campea and or Mrs. Campea can be seen on Kitchen Nightmares Season 3, Episode 8. Timestamps are 36 minutes and 40 seconds, 40 minutes, 17 seconds, 40 minutes, 57 seconds, and 42 minutes and 40 seconds. Mr. C, have you gone back to eat at that place since? I have.
Wait, is this true?
Oh, it's true. Yeah.
I didn't know. How did I not know this?
Yeah, it's
funny.
I
didn't know this.
Because I can always tell when the television cycle has gone around, because I'll all of a sudden get about 15 or 20 tweets from people going, is that you on Kitchen Nightmares?
Wow, that's cool, like, dude. I didn't know that.
Yes, it is. It was this Italian restaurant in Glendale. And I haven't been in a couple of years, and I don't know what it was like before, but we were there as Gordon Ramsay was doing the big reveal night, and, we were the after. They do the before stuff on Kitchen Nightmares where everybody complains, this food is terrible. And then they do the after at the end of the show. Fortunately, Ann and I got to go and be a part of the after. And we had all the new menu food, and it was great. And we got to meet Gordon Ramsay there, which was a lot of fun, and it was a wonderful experience. So yeah, you can find us on there. But I only went back the once. I didn't go back again. And honestly, I don't know if they're still in business. I'm not saying they're not. And this has been a number of years. I don't know if they're still in business or not.
Right.
But anyway, thanks for bringing that up, Suthius. All right. Ryan Butler writes, hey, just wanted to let you know that I often watch the full show on my days off, and my cat seemed pleased to hear it. The only thing they react to in such a fashion is Animal Planet, narrated by David Attenborough. So there's your compliment. The cheetah is the fastest of the mammals, but can only attain top speed for a limited amount of time before they risk overheating. I am a sucker for the David Attenborough nature stuff. I swear to God, every once in a while I'll just go downstairs, I'll just pop open YouTube, and I'll just look at random videos of cheetahs or lions or monkeys or whatever. I just get a big kick out of his stuff. You ever get caught up on watching that stuff?
Dude, my dogs will sit on the edge of the bed as I'm watching. They are fascinated by anything with animals.
Love it.
Riveted. Like they know what they're watching, and if there's a sound, a roar or a bark, they think it's outside. They don't get that it's on TV, and they run outside to find out what it is.
All right, next up. I saw this one. I didn't know this. So these chimpanzees, they go out and they hunt and eat other monkeys. I didn't even know that.
Monkeys
Thank you,
gotta
David Attenborough. Monkeys got to eat. All right. Next up here, TJ Lynn writes, my occupation is a high school math and physics tutor. Wow, that's awesome. Grade 11 and 12. We've established that you're far smarter than me. My students are all in the 17 to 19 age range. I'm curious as to whether you have ever taken math or physics when in high school, and what do you think of them? Oh, I've had in Canada. You have to take that.
17 or 19-year-old, you mean? I think a lot of them. No,
I'm
just kidding. No, we had to too. We had to take math and physics.
So I had to take it. Look, obviously, I didn't pursue that, and it didn't become applicable for me in other things as I moved on in my particular career path. But I remember enjoying those subjects.
I mean, there was algebra 3 and trigonometry, and then calculus.
Right. Yeah.
And then we had physics as well.
Yeah. So that was all part of our school system as well in Canada. So, yep, absolutely, TJ, that was a part of our system as well. So good on you for being a teacher, man.
Yeah.
All right. TJ also writes, love Scorsese very much, but had to disagree a bit about cinema. Superhero movies, maybe not the same cinema he's used to or that he used to know, but it's getting there. You are hearing this from me, who adores Scorsese greatly and have most of his movies in my top 50 of all time list. And listen, I think there is a lot of us. There's not a rule that says, well, if you like Scorsese, you have to agree with his comments. And if you don't like Scorsese's comments, that means you can't like his movies. No, I think there's a lot of us that worship as a filmmaker Martin Scorsese and still didn't like the comments he made. Now, of course, in recent days, he's put an end to it. He changed his tune. He's now like, oh no, it's just a different kind of art form. They do tremendous work and really respect it. And to me, it kind of put it to bed. So we're kind of past the Scorsese thing. But by no means, if you didn't like his comments, that meant you couldn't like his movies. Or if you liked his movies, that meant you had to agree with his comments. Not at all. I think most of us, Rob, we're in the ballpark of, we love Scorsese and his movies, and we did not like his comments. And it's okay. You're allowed to do both, right?
Yeah, I think 100%.
All right. Next up, Justin Jorgensen writes, hello, John and crew. This is my very first donation to the John Campea Show, and I'm so excited. Thank you so much for that, Justin. I know it's not much, but it's something. Dude, no, listen, the very fact that you even watch the show is supportive, so thank you so much, dude. I was wondering if you had a major preference over the Lord of the Rings theatrical or Lord of the Rings extended cuts. Thanks. Ooh, so this is a deep cut question, Rob. Now listen, to me, I love the extended editions. I do. But the extended editions are cool, to me, at any rate, is cool add-on stuff. And a lot of people disagree with me on this, and that's fine. But to me, the theatrical version of a film is always the version of the film. That's the version of the movie. And you can add all this other stuff later, and I enjoyed watching the extended editions. I still watch the extended editions about once every 2 years. I'll watch the extended editions, and I love them. But to me, the movie is a theatrical edition, and that's why I watch those probably twice as much as I watch the extended. So that's me. Rob, what about you?
I vastly prefer the extended editions, and that's probably because, I worked on the special features for the extended editions, but I like the first Fellowship and Two Towers, but I might prefer the theatrical version of Return of the King better.
Ooh.
But, it's the one that I know the least. The extended version is the one I know the least for Return of the King. And that might be true, but I think that Fellowship and Two Towers are made much better by the extended material.
All right, man. And I'm sure a lot of people have their own opinions about that as well. All right. Luwu7 writes, have you seen Klaus on Netflix? No, they're saying it's fire. But listen, I have had so many of you guys writing in and saying that you really liked it. As a matter of fact, I think just on yesterday's show or on Friday's show, I think somebody specifically wrote in and asked about that. And now we got another person. Now you're saying you really like it. Have you had a chance to check this out, Rob?
No, and I'll watch. Look, I was raised Jewish, but I love Christmas shows. I love Christmas shows. I've loved them since I watched Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Put one foot in front of the other. I love Christmas shows, so I can't wait to watch this.
All right, and thank you for the recommendation, Luwu, because I might have to just get on. I've got so many of you guys telling me about it now. Anonymous writes, testing. Thank you for testing, Anonymous. Murray Reich writes, you can tell Ann that I heard there's going to be a baby Jar Jar in The Mandalorian next episode, and I heard he's so cute. Of course, Ann, listen, not just Ann, the complete freaking culture right now is Baby Yoda obsessed.
Dude, I ordered a Baby Yoda t-shirt.
Did
An
you?
officially licensed Baby Yoda t-shirt on Friday.
Did you see the video? There's a video that came across my Twitter feed yesterday. Somebody took the scene from Revenge of the Sith where Yoda comes in to confront the Emperor.
And they did a really good job.
They did a it's just, instead of Yoda coming in to confront the Emperor, they digitally took out Yoda and put in Baby Yoda in his floating crib. I don't know how they did
it. It was really well done.
Wonderful job. And I played it for Anne last night, and she's like, play it again. I'm like, all right. Play it again. I'm not sure I'd be down for a baby Jar Jar Murray, but yeah, man, it is crazy how much that Baby Yoda
I love when the lightsaber, Baby Yoda's lightsaber ignites.
It's crazy. It's just, oh my God. And the way they digitally manipulate his face too. Oh my God. All right. Jason Clark writes, hey, John and crew, big fan from Australia here. Thank you so much, dude. Love the show. I watch it every day. Just wanted to show my support for the new tipping method you have made available. Keep up the good work, mate. Well, thank you so much for that. And it is crazy. I'm always amazed, Rob, how many people watch our show. I mean, there's a number of countries I expect, UK, things like that. But I'm always surprised how many people from Australia watch the show. I'm always surprised how many people in India watch the show. Like when I go over the analytics, like really big.
It's crazy.
A lot of people from a lot of countries I wouldn't expect.
My favorite on the country analytics is other. At the bottom, I get like 25 things, and it's other. It's like 17%. I'm like, what countries are those?
Wakanda.
Other.
Wakanda.
Yeah, Wakanda.
I just believe it's Wakanda.
We're big in Wakanda and
we're
Latveria.
Huge in Wakanda. Yes, we're huge in those countries. And of course, New Asgard. Those are the other countries. All right, thanks for writing that in, Jason. All right, next up, Coaster Ninja writes, watching you almost every day since 2014, your show in all of its different forms has been a reprieve for me during difficult times in my life. Thanks for helping me through all those moments. Wish you and team nothing but continued success moving forward. Costa, thank you so much, man. That means a lot. It really does. And I think it speaks to the power of movies and the movie fandom. You know, we talk about that stuff all the time, about the movies and the movie fandom and what it provides for us. And the very fact that we can have a little bit of a corner of that movie fandom here where people like me and like you and whatever can not only have a lot of fun, but find an oasis, is what I call it, from our regular world problems. And again, it's not that the movies or talking movies with each other solves our problems, but it gives our brains a bit of a break. And it refreshes us. And we're able to go back and face whatever crap is going on in our lives with a new perspective and maybe a little bit of a different point of view, or at the very least, a little bit more refreshed. And I found that been so significant in my life. You know, I wasn't going to do this, but I put this up on my social media yesterday in Coaster Ninja. And this is meant as, you know, a real encouragement to all of you about the power that all of you have as members of film fan communities, as you're part of these discussions, and when you're talking to people that you've never met and maybe never will meet in your life in person. But I wanted to share this with you. This is something that got sent to me the other day. And I'm not going to lie, I get messages like this quite often, but every once in a while, I mean, they all mean a lot to me deeply. This one particularly moved me, but I think I'll just share this one with you right now. So this one came in and it said, hello, John. My name is blank. Let's just call him Joe. My name is Joe. You may remember me as Joe on Twitter. Back in 2012, I was in a pretty bad place. I had no friends. I was getting bullied all the time, and my parents were getting divorced. I had nothing good happening to me and was seriously thinking of going out on my own terms. Then, after watching The Avengers, I went on YouTube to check reviews for the movie. That's when I found you and your AMC Movie Talk. You and your crew made me feel like I was not alone. I was finally part of a group. Today, I'm in college, and my family watches your show with me. You and your videos saved my life. When you say that you're a fucking nobody from Canada, I laugh and say at the screen, bullshit. This guy is one of the reasons I'm alive. Thank you, and I have spoken. I am not going to get emotional. But I believe that is a testimony, Rob, not to our specific show. I think it is a testimony to the power of fandom and the positive power fandom can have. Look, we've seen a lot of examples over the past couple years about the negative power that fandom can have. But it's important to realize that fandom also has incredibly positive power. And I think that it's messages like this that I think are a good reminder for all of us that when we're in chat boards and we're talking to each other, whether we're all geeking out and agreeing about the same thing or having disagreements about other things. So remember, we're talking to fellow film fans. And maybe that fellow film fan has a different point of view than me. All right, let's have fun together and talk about our different, as opposed to making it toxic and negative and things. And I think it's a real reminder to all of us who are members of the film fan community that we really do have that kind of power for each other. And I just think it's amazing. Rob, I know you get messages like this too, and it's always humbling, number one, but number two, a really great reminder about the power of movies and the movie fan community.
Well, that's what I always say. I mean, I guess my brand has always been positivity, because we're just surrounded by so much cool stuff. And I grew up, I was so enmeshed in this when I was a kid, and I didn't have any friends. I mean, I was really social. I had a lot of friends, but I had no friends that shared my passion for movies and things like that. And then as I got older, I maybe had one or two. But this is a way to share it with a whole community of people and get feedback and share what we love. And, that's why when John Schnepp brought me on to Collider, I didn't know you. I'm on actually AMC Heroes, and I was on with you and John.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is so much fun, where we could talk about, I didn't even know that we could do this. Like, as I'm being beaten down by the industry, going on the show when I first met you guys was something that made me feel good. I'm like, wow, I'm tired of being battered with trying to figure out budgets or this. I want to talk about graphic novels or action figures or how much I love this movie or that movie. And you guys provided that to me at a time when I actually needed it. And 4.5 years later, almost 5 years later, I'm still doing it.
And we're all glad that you do.
Because of you.
All because of the film fan community. So Coaster Ninja, seriously, thank you so much for that. I didn't make this particular one its own video because there's not a question attached to it. But seriously, man, thank you so much for sending that in and for reminding us of really the positive power that all of us as a film fan community have. So thank you for that, dude. And I'm glad that you're here with us, man. All right. Next up here, where are we at? We're at K Major, who writes, "Hey, John and gang, it's just been awesome being along on this ride as your show and success grows. Been here since 2013. Bring on the filthy, and this is the way." Well, I always get first of all, I love that anybody watches the show, but it is always a really big kick for me hearing from people who have not only are a part of the show today, but have been around since the AMC days, or heaven forbid, even the movie blog days, going back that far.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, man. I appreciate you being along for the ride. I really do. All right. Landon Irvin writes, "Once more into the fray, into the last great fight I'll ever know. Live and die on this day. Live and die on this day. The Gray is one of my favorite movies of all time. Saw your interview with Liam Neeson about it. Thoughts on him and the movie?" I am a big Liam Neeson fan.
Me too.
I unapologetically a huge Liam Neeson fan. And listen, one of the things that really struck me the first time I met him, I was not prepared for how huge this dude is. Liam Neeson's a big guy. And I'm not talking bodybuilder, but when it's a little off-putting, I think, at first when you first meet him, because you have this vision of him in your head, and then you meet him and you realize he's so much bigger in person than you were thinking. And then you think back, I was like, yeah, almost everything I've ever seen Liam Neeson in, he's always the tallest guy in the room. And I remember when I shook his hand, and I got big mitts. But when he shook my hand, his hand completely enveloped mine. It's like, holy crap, this is a big dude. I really love him. I love his work. He's been doing a lot of action films lately, which I think because he knows his time is running out to do those sorts of films. So he's getting all those in now. He can do his dramas later. But I love him as a performer. What do you think of him?
I'm a huge Liam Neeson fan. I have always been a huge Liam Neeson fan all the way back to Excalibur. He's amazing.
All right. Next up here, we get Andrew Gifford, who tipped $50. And I did make a standalone video for this one. But the question was, hey, John, for the most part, Pixar tells stories that would seem to only work in animation. But Disney's live action remakes have me curious. Are you shaking my camera, by the way, Rob? I keep seeing my camera shaking. I'm not sure. Okay. Maybe we're having another earthquake in here.
You know what? It might be my tapping on the floor. Or
You're
something.
tapping your damn foot. That would do it.
It's on the carpet.
Because we have such solid equipment in here in the office. We need to get that fixed. Anyway, but Disney's live action remakes have me curious. What Pixar movies do you think might translate most interestingly in a live action setting? And as I said, Andrew, first of all, thank you for supporting the channel on that level. And I made a complete standalone video asking which Pixar movies are best suited to be translated into live action. So I give my answer in that video, which I put up last night. Rob, I'm curious though. What Pixar film we see a lot of Disney films being moved over to live action. Which Pixar films do you think could stand a really good chance to be translated into live action?
A Bug's Life. Photorealistic
How
bugs,
did I know
yo.
you were going to do that?
I want the Lion King treatment to A Bug's Life.
But that's not live action.
I know, but I mean, I don't know how you would do live action bugs, at least photorealistic bugs. Let's go from the animated bugs to photorealistic bugs. I think that movie would rule.
All right. And I give my picks in the standalone video below that you guys can go and check out. Okay. Next up here, where are we at? We are at Murray Riker writes, isn't this already a lose-lose situation for YouTube's sake? Regardless if they either lose YouTubers or they get shut down for good. Listen, all worst case scenario, yeah. But you got to believe they're going to find a way around the worst case scenario.
Are you talking about COPPA?
I think he's probably talking about COPPA.
Because they already paid a $175 million fine.
Yes, they already did. And now they have shielded themselves from being fined anymore. Now they're going to pass the fines on to the creators.
Yeah.
Which that's a whole lot of BS. That is a whole lot of BS. But remember, we're still in the early days. They will figure out a way around this. But it is concerning to me, which is why I'm going to be talking to lawyers later this week about figuring out what is my position. Because I put up on Twitter, Rob, I need to at least start thinking about moving the John Campea Show off of YouTube and maybe moving it to another platform, whether that's Twitch, maybe making it a Patreon supporter only show. Maybe a Mixer, or I mean, I don't know. There's not a real viable YouTube competitor out there.
No.
But it's something, and I'm not saying I'm about to do it, but it's something that even I have to at least consider at this point until they start to get this worked out. All right, next up, Murray Reich writes, my response to this COPPA thing is Baskin-Robbins always finds it. Gotta love it when we can work in an Ant-Man reference into it, Murray. I love it. Well done. All right, next one, Casinema Reviews writes, Disney Plus, there we go. Disney Plus has pages for movies not currently available. The Last Jedi, Infinity War, etc. with a date saying when they'll be available. Ooh, I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
But some significant titles, Aladdin 2019, The Lion King 2019, Toy Story 4, don't even have pages. Why do you think this is the case? My pure guess here is because maybe those dates are a little bit further off. They probably already had licensing agreements. They got to wait for those to lapse, and then they can bring them in. So my guess is because they're probably a little bit further off, so there's no point. But that's my only guess. Rob, can you see another thing?
I think that's exactly right. I mean, I noticed that there's still some of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies on Amazon. Yeah. And so they've got to wait until these things all run out.
Yeah. And then they'll be, which is funny because I got a message from some of our viewers in other countries saying, actually, we've already got that stuff on Disney Plus where I live, because maybe in that territory, those rights weren't already signed out.
Yeah.
So there's some territories that have more stuff than we do right now. So we just got to wait for those things to play themselves out. Exiled Garlic. I like that. And this will be our last question here with Robert Meyer Burnett here, because he's got things he's got to do. Exiled Garlic writes, hey, John, found your channel recently because of the Dark Side, Light Side collaboration with Christian Harloff. Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. We love doing that show. Good luck with the COPPA thing. And you should know that you've got a loyal follower here with whatever it is you plan to do. Also, who is Crack Pipe Jim? One of these days, I'll have to get Ray on here to do his... I don't know that I ever can. It's tough. It is almost impossible to get Ray to agree to be on camera. It's really hard for me to get Ray to agree to be on camera for anything. But if I could get him on sometimes just to tell the story of Crack Pipe Jim.
I almost did a spectate when you said that.
It is a totally fictitious character that he made up. In the spur of a moment, as we were driving from Niagara Falls to Hamilton, Ontario, Canada a few months ago, and we saw this spooky abandoned house in the middle of nowhere, and he's just started making up the story of Crack Pipe Jim that lives in that house, and it is one of the funniest 15 minutes. He just rambled 15 minutes making up stuff about Crack Pipe Jim, and recently he created a shared cinematic universe with Crack Pipe Jim with a guy by the name of Baloney Joe. So Crack Pipe Jim and Baloney Joe, someday, somehow, I'll have to get him on here to talk about this stuff, Rob. Anyway, Rob, listen, thank you so much for being here today. You got to run and you got stuff you got to do. But hey, where can people find you online before we see your shining face back here again tomorrow?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnettwork, or its adjacent website, theburnettwork.net.
Awesome, dude. Great job as always. And we will, of course, see you again tomorrow for the next episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that down, let's keep on going. We still got about a half hour here, so let's keep on rocking through these live questions you guys sent in. And we're going to pick things up with Robbie J. Martin, who writes, "Good day from Australia, John. Thank you. Again, it's always surprised how many people from Australia watch the show. Reviews are out for Sam Mendes 1917. Ooh, and they're good. And literally every single review is praising it for its one-shot style cinematography, Roger Deakins, captivating story, and wonderful performances. Are you excited? I know I am. And listen, oddly enough, I have been looking forward to 1917. But unlike other people, I was not blown away by the trailers. I thought, okay, that looks interesting. Could be interesting. Now, Sam Mendes is doing it. That's obviously something working in his favor. But yeah, hearing the stuff, like a lot of people saying best war movie since X movie, like whether it's Saving Private Ryan or whatever, there's some high praise coming out for this movie right now. And just hearing, particularly from the people who are saying it, how much they're raving about this thing. I gotta say, I've gone from being really interested in the movie to legitimately now being excited. And I'm right there with you, Robbie. It's got me, and I'm pumped for it. All right. Omar Allenz writes, finally, I get to support my favorite YouTube channel. Super Chat is not available in my region. Oh, thanks so much for that, Omar. Regarding COPA, I'm not a lawyer, but wouldn't a must be 13 years or older warning into absolve you of any future lawsuit? That's how other adult videos do it. Nope. Because that will not be a part of the consideration for the FTC. And remember, it's not YouTube that's going to fine you. It's the government agency that's going to fine you. And the government agency has put out a criteria of these are the things you have to look for, but it's still very vague and very nebulous. And so now there have been some other things coming out in recent days. The FTC has been trying to clarify things a little bit that make me feel a little bit better, but it's still a little bit vague. And as long as it's vague, it leaves you uncertain. Because if they suddenly look at my Frozen 2 review and say, you know what, Frozen 2 is a children's movie that's meant to attract children to watch it. And it doesn't matter if I say, hey, if you're 13, fuck off. It doesn't matter if I say that. If they determine the nature of my video is as such to appeal to 13-year-old or to kids under 13, I could get fined $42,000. So there's still there's a few people out there claiming they've got all the answers and they don't. It's still kind of nebulous. It is still kind of vague. And that's why there's a lot of panic right now, including me. I admit I'm panicking a little bit, but we'll just have to see how that all kind of turns out. But anyway, thank you for sharing that, Omar, and we're glad you're able to be a part of it, man. James Lockman writes, hey, you Italian good-looking man. F you. There. Now your video is not for kids, LOL. I will gladly write in every day to tell you this so you won't get hit with a fine. I have spoken, and this is the way. We are here to support you, John, in any way we can. Well, thank you for that so much, James. And, you know, on the video that I put up about COPA and how it affects the John Campea Show, one of the many responses that I got, and a lot of people said this, will say, John, they weren't trying to be funny. It was a serious suggestion. Swear more in your videos to make it clear that the video is not for kids. Swear more. Here's the problem. You swear too much, you get slapped with this dreaded yellow $sign on your videos that says ads on your YouTube video will be limited because your video has been deemed inappropriate for sponsors and inappropriate for our advertisers. So on the one hand, you want to try to do as much stuff to make it clear this isn't for kids, but if you do a whole lot of profanity, then they kill the monetization on your video, and then you go broke. So a lot of people saying, just swear more in your shows, John. Yeah, but then I risk not getting any monetization. So there's no easy solution for this, unfortunately. But thank you for this, and I appreciate everybody trying to come up with creative ways to help out. I appreciate that, guys. All right. Film Boss writes, "Hey guys, I've been put off from sending in larger super chats as I knew that YouTube took 1/3. So thank you for creating this alternative avenue. I always cringed a little when I saw another Skywalker send in such generous super chats, intending for it all to go to you. And hey, listen, it all helps the channel. Listen, whether you use super chat, whether you use the tipping thing, whether you're just here to watch the show, it all supports the channel. And I am equally as grateful to everybody who does. And you guys help keep our show going. And while we're able to have the cameras we have, the computer equipment we have, the streaming service that we have, the staff that we have, the editor that we have, our on-camera guests that we have, it's all because of the generosity of our Patreon supporters and you guys who support the channel by using, whether it's the tipping service or super chat. I am grateful for it because it does, all of it does help the channel. And we thank you very much for that. So thank you for your insight, Film Boss. I really appreciate that, man. And thank you for being a supporter. We really appreciate it. All right. Son Tito7 writes, "Hey, John, I know that you like The Dark Knight Rises, but you also like Batman vs. Superman and Justice League. How would you rank these 3 DC films? For me, number 1 is The Dark Knight Rises, number 2, Justice League, number 3, Batman vs. Superman. I would rank them, and this will be unpopular, I would rank them as not sure. I'd have to think about it. It's honestly, it's not something I can think of off the top of my head. I'm not really sure because, yeah, I like the Justice League. Sue me. I like Justice League. And I like Batman versus Superman. Sue me. I like the movie. I mean, I acknowledge it has its issues and it has its problems. I'm not stupid, but I thought there was more to like than there was to dislike about those movies. So that's me. And I do think while I like The Dark Knight Rises, I think it's clearly the weakest of the Christopher Nolan Batman films. But so ranking them is never something I've done in my head. So I don't know that I can do it off the top of my head, but it's an interesting question. Thanks for asking, man. All right. James Lockman writes, "I watched Knives Out, and it was so good. Daniel Craig was wonderful, and so was Ana de Armas. I never know if I'm pronouncing her name right. Who is also going to be in the new Bond film, No Time to Die. If Rian Johnson never makes another Star Wars film, that's okay with me because he's making gems like this." Seriously, guys. And I didn't talk about it on today's show because I saw it on Friday or Thursday. I can't remember when I saw it. Knives Out is awesome. Knives Out is actually my 3rd favorite film of the year. So as of now, my personal top 5 of the year are as follows. Number 1 is still Jojo Rabbit. Number 2 is number 2 was, hold on a second here. Yeah, number 1 was Jojo Rabbit. Number 2 is Parasite. Number 3 is now Knives Out. It is exceedingly exceptional. It is an outstanding movie. Number 4 for me is The Farewell, and number 5 is Ford v Ferrari. So that's my top 5 right now. So with Knives Out jumping up there, that pushed out Joker and Booksmart, which were tied for number 5 for me. They're now tied for number 6. But that's my top 5 right now. I'm glad you liked it, James, because I adored this movie. I cannot wait to go and watch it again. Look, I'm a little bit of a sucker for whodunits and all that kind of stuff. I am. So there's that, but I really had such a great time with it. I'm glad you did too, man. All right, Mr. 47 writes, "Do you know if the Tom Hardy Splinter Cell movie is still coming? And by the way, are you aware of the games at all? Michael Ironside, Sam Fisher is one of my favorite video game characters of all time, and I love Michael Ironside. And wow, this is way better than Super Chat. Thanks, John." Well, thank you so much for that, Mr. You know what's funny? Because I think it was just like 2 weeks ago we brought up the Tom Hardy Splinter Cell thing. I honestly don't know if that thing still has breath. I don't know. Now, it's funny I say that, and maybe they're in production of the movie already. I remember a couple months ago, I was saying, man, I don't even know if this Vin Diesel, I can't remember. What's the name of the one he's doing right now? The comic book based movie. Why am I freezing on the name of it? Anyway, I said, I don't even know if this movie's still going to happen. And they were actually finished shooting the movie. So for all I know, maybe they've shot this damn movie already, but I've heard nothing about it. So I'm starting to doubt that it's going to happen. But Michael Ironside, I've loved Michael Ironside ever since V. When he, remember the miniseries V, and that was when I was a young kid, but I used to love him in that, and I've loved him in everything I've ever seen him since. Even Starship Troopers. You know what to do, Rico. I love Michael Ironside. Love that dude. He was in Highlander 2, which is one of the worst films of all time, but I'll give him a pass on that. All right. James Lockman writes, I'm having a lot of fun with Jedi Fallen Order. Are we going to see any play-in chats with you? Yes, you are. I'm terrible at it because I'm using that damn controller, but I am going to be doing that. How do you like it so far? I'm enjoying it. I do like Jedi Fallen Order so far. A friend of mine is playing his PS4 with a mouse and keyboard. Maybe you can give some of the PS4 games a try using the mouse and keyboard. Here's the thing. I downloaded initially the game on PC so I could use my mouse and keyboard. The thing is, when I installed Jedi Fallen Order, the very first screen that came up was this big warning that says, while you can use mouse and keyboard for Jedi Fallen Order, this game is not optimized for that, and you will have a much better experience if you use it with a control pad. So I went, nah, and they weren't wrong. It is a totally confounding experience trying to play that game with a mouse and keyboard. It was really frustrating, and I gave up on it after about 3 minutes. So then I decided to reinstall it and try it again with the bloody gamepad. And I've got my PS4 controller here. So hooked it back up to the game and gave it a shot. And I'm muddling my way through it. I played for a couple hours. I've muddled my way through it. And I'm enjoying the game, but I'm still very frustrated using the controller, but I'm trying my best. But yes, I will be doing a play and chat of it at some point. If for no other reason, just everybody can laugh at how bad I am at that particular game. I'll kick all of your asses at Unreal Tournament. Oh, I'll destroy you. But, oh my God, I'm so terrible at this game. I'm so bad at it, but I am having a lot of fun with it. All right, Film Boss writes, just saw Gemini Man, and I am shocked that it didn't bomb harder. What a pile of shit. And the 120 frames per second just made the film look atrocious. Ang Lee deservedly won 2 Best Director Oscars. It's fascinating to me that he could then make something this bad. I'll tell you what, I did not think Gemini Man was terrible. I didn't think it was terrible. But I couldn't recommend the movie either. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Bottom line is I could not recommend that movie. And it's just such a terrible script. Now, I thought the 120 frames per second was very interesting. It was very interesting. And it became less distracting to me, I must say, as the film went on. But it always felt like I was watching a movie shot on somebody's phone for some reason. I don't know. It was pretty off-putting, Film Boss, I gotta say. But again, I think the main weaknesses of this film lied with the script. It was a really bad script. And there's just no coming back. When all you're relying on is, everybody's going to come see this for Will Smith fighting young Will Smith. When that's all you got, then no, that's not enough. And yeah, man, it flopped hard. Anyway, PMT Designs writes, hi, John. I've seen the buzz about 4v Ferrari, and I usually enjoy Damon and Bale in movies, but I'm not a fan of race cars and racing movies, so my interest in watching it has been low. What would you say has been so appealing about the film to audiences? Well, here's the funny thing, PMT. I'm not a race car guy either. I'm not even a car guy. Like, sometimes my buddies say, give me your man card. When I say I'm not really into cars. Like, it's funny, my buddy Ryan and Ann yesterday went to the big car show, the big LA car show at the LA Convention Center. And at the last minute, I'm like, I'm not interested. I'm not going to go. What? Yeah, I didn't go. I stayed home to watch football instead. Watch my New England Patriots beat the Dallas Cowboys. Anyway, that's what I stayed home to do. So at any rate, I'm not really into cars either. But you don't need to be into cars to love a human story that just happened to be around cars. This is a great movie because it is a fascinating human story. And whether the subject matter was cars or computers or ice cream flavors or missions to the moon, when you have great compelling characters giving good performances from solid actors in a well-directed and well-told story that talks about issues that are common human experience issues in a way that relates to us, it almost doesn't matter what the subject matter is. And Ford v Ferrari is all of those things. And again, I'm not a car racing guy either, and I love this film. Right now, it's my number 5 favorite film of the year. I would really recommend giving it a shot. And I think you will really enjoy it, even though I'm not a car guy and neither are you. So that's my recommendation on that. Anyway, thanks for asking that, man. Evan Hill writes, sorry about the Hamilton Tiger Cats made it to the Grey Cup. They lost to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Full marks to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but my Hamilton Tiger Cats lost. Sorry about the Tiger Cats, but the Bombers stomped on them. Better luck next season. Hey, listen, this was a much better year than they've had in a long time. So all steps in the right direction, and congratulations to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. All right, Nick writes, Buongiorno, Giovanni. Anyway, hope you and Ann had a great weekend. We did have a great weekend. Thank you. This will be my last ever super chat. Thank you so much for taking the initiative to use the Streamlabs tips as an alternative for us fans to write in on your show. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And you know, it's just an alternative. It's just an alternative. If you are somebody that prefers to use Super Chat, by all means, I'm super grateful that you're using it. And by all means, continue to use it. But if you are so inclined, by all means, use the tip link. Again, it's in the top line of the description below. So thank you for that, Nick. And I'm glad that a lot of you guys find it more convenient. And believe me, it has benefits for me. It has benefits for you. But whatever works easier for you, that's great with me. Because, hell, you're supporting the show that you watch. And I can't even begin to tell you how grateful we are for that. So thank you for that on any level. So thanks for that, Nick. All right. Mr. 47 writes, just saw a Peanut Butter Falcon. It's almost as endearing as Jojo Rabbit. Great film. Shia LaBeouf has finally picked up some of his marbles that he had lost, LOL. Listen, as much of a crackpot as we all joke about Shia LaBeouf being, the fact of the matter is, what has never changed, this dude is a stupid, sick actor. I mean, just sick good. That has never changed. He has, even in his worst of the worst moments, you cannot deny the sheer mutant power of acting this dude has. He is incredible. Now, the two films, now there's three, which I will correct one of them today, which is the new Mr. Rogers movie. I still haven't seen that. But the other two movies that I've yet to see this year that I need to get checked off my list are Peanut Butter Falcon and Honey Boy. These are ones I got to get checked off my list here pretty quick as we're heading into December. But yeah, man, there's no denying the sheer power of him. So thank you for the recommendation, mister, and I'm glad you like the movie, man. Dimsum05 writes, John's lower third for 2020. Copa, get out of my channel, you little turds. This channel isn't for effing kids, mother effers. Probably. Hey, don't laugh, Dimsum. I actually considered having a disclaimer, just a black screen with a disclaimer text come up that says, disclaimer, the John Campea Show is meant for film fan adults and not meant for children and blah, 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 blah. And then start this. I actually considered doing that. And maybe I still will, although I don't know that that'll help, even if a FTC person still deems that it does. So I'm not sure it'll help, but I've been thinking about doing that, so don't laugh, man. All right. Dimsum05 also writes, my house, my rules, my coffee. By the way, the image I tagged you in was a prize won at the screening, and I never win anything. Ooh, I haven't seen it yet. Do me a favor, Dimsum, just so I don't miss it. Because when you're in the advanced screening of Knives Out, they gave away posters for Knives Out. And just before the movie starts, Rian Johnson comes on the screen and says, thank you for being here at this advanced screening of Knives Out. You all got given this poster. Somebody in this theater has a special sticker on the back of your poster. And if you do, you've won a prize. Now that's when I kicked myself because I didn't pick up a poster on my way in. But clearly, Dimsum, do me a favor, email me the picture to john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Can you email me that? Because I'd love to see what it is. Timbula the Spider Monkey writes, here, have some tip testing money. Thank you so much, Timbula. Appreciate it, man. All right, next up, Quinn Fowley writes, question for both John and Rob, who we just missed, Rob. Do you happen to know if the MCU one-shots are included as bonus features on Disney Plus? Asking as a prospective Disney Plus subscriber. You know what? I have not seen them anywhere. The Disney little one-shots like Ben Kingsley in prison for impersonating the Mandarin, like Coulson having dinner in a diner talking about the fate of Abomination. They did a couple of years ago, Disney did a bunch of these little one short things, right? I would love to see, I didn't even think about that, Quinn. Why have they not gathered those up and put them on Disney Plus yet? I would love to see that. I'd be dying for that, and I hope they get around. They absolutely should do that. They 100% absolutely should do that, and I hope they do. The Jenks writes, you mentioned looking for a new platform for your content. Check out Storyfire. I've never heard of that. It's the best alternative for YouTube. If you have any questions, contact McJuggernuggets, Brian Spitz, Storyfire on Twitter. You know what? This is what I love about the film fan community. Everybody knows more than any one individual does. I've never even heard of Storyfire. I am going to look into that. Again, I don't know that I'm moving off YouTube. Don't get me wrong. I'm just a little panicked right now. I need to talk to lawyers and things like that and get things figured out. But it's always good to know what alternatives are. And I've never heard of Storyfire. So thank you very much, the Jenks, for putting that on my radar. I appreciate that, man. James Rye writes, I'm a big fan of Elvis, and I'm really excited for the upcoming biopic. Do you think with Boz directing, we will get more of a Moulin Rouge, Rocket Man fantasy tone, or something closer to Walk the Line? My initial... And I don't know, James. I've got no insider information on this. And I love Baz Luhrmann. My initial guess is we will get something along the lines of Moulin Rouge. Now, again, that is just a guess. It's just my gut. I honestly don't know. It could go either way. I would be very interested in either. I think both of those possibilities, James, doing it like a more biographical Walk the Line or a more whimsical Moulin Rouge, which gives you a little bit more creative flexibility. I think they both carry with them insane upside. Very different upsides from each other, but insane upsides. So I'll just tell you, I feel like they'll lean towards the Moulin Rouge one, but seriously, dude, count me in for whichever approach they take. They go the Walk the Line approach, I'm in. They go the Moulin Rouge approach, they go the Moulin Rouge or Rocket Man approach, I'm in. Whichever way, I think has a lot of upside. It's in the hands of a great director, so we'll see how they go. But right now, I'm leaning towards them doing a Moulin Rouge version of it. So I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. Great question, though, James. All right. Matthew Denton writes, a friend and I were bored, so we played the John Campea Show like it was a role-playing game. A bad role meant a bad topic, and we had to pretend to talk about. Next, $1 million video game. You just came up. You know, I'm not kidding you, Matthew. I swear to God, I'm not kidding. This is 100% true. I had some developers approach me, not from any big company or anything like that, but I had some developers approach me and ask me if they could develop, if I would give them the rights to develop a John Campea Show game. I'm like, I don't know about that. And I shied away from it, but I swear to God, I did get asked that at one time. Maybe I should revisit that at some point. James Rye writes, over under 15%, Baby Yoda will have a role in Rise of Skywalker. Also, hope you and the crew are having a fantastic day, and thank you so much for creating an open atmosphere for fans to discuss film. Well, thank you so much for that, James. As far as the Baby Yoda thing going into, or any connection between Mandalorian and the Rise of Skywalker, I go very low. Not zero, not impossible. But I think when John Favreau came up with his idea for Mandalorian and started sketching out his notes for it, he had no idea what was even happening in Rise of Skywalker. He didn't know what was happening in that movie. And considering the time difference and all that kind of stuff, and I do not see Disney making the mistake of going, you'll only understand The Rise of Skywalker if you get Disney Plus and go watch The Mandalorian. I can't see them doing that. So while I don't believe it's zero, not at all zero, there's a chance, I will still take under 15%. Even though 15% is pretty low, I will still take the under on 15%. All right. Thanks for sending that in, man. All right. Sam Fisher writes, one of two. The movie I mentioned last week, La Vida è Bella's English name is Life is Beautiful. It stars and is directed by Roberto Benigni. It is one of my all-time favorite movies. Roberto Benigni's Life is Beautiful is one of my all-time favorite movies. Anyway, Sam writes, won Best Actor and Best Foreign Film in 1999. And by the way, Roberto Benigni, I believe, was also nominated for Best Director for that film as well. It is one of the most special, most wonderful movies of all time. It's a truly special movie. And you can get anybody who says they have never cried in any movie, you play them Life is Beautiful. You'll see some tears. you'll see some tears. That movie is beyond ridiculously good. Anyway, always great when somebody brings up Life is Beautiful, Sam. All right, JB Bonifacio writes, the 2010s is defined by the rise of streaming, in my opinion. It's maybe, it's only coming on strong near the end of the decade, but I mean, Rob would completely agree with you. It is definitely a huge story, JB, absolutely. Johnny Granada writes, my top 10 comic book movies, number 10, Dread. I'm assuming you mean the Carl Urban one. I'm just going to take a wild guess here. Number 9, Deadpool. Number 8, Logan. Number 7, Winter Soldier. Number 6, Batman Returns. Batman Returns. Number 5, Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Number 3, Infinity War. Number 2, The Crow. And number 1, Thor Ragnarok. It is crazy, Johnny, how much Thor Ragnarok resonated with people. That movie was just such a pure ball of entertainment. Like, I remember I watched that movie with some people who did not, I mean, I think they saw 1 or 2 MCU movies, but basically they don't watch comic book movies. They watched Thor Ragnarok. They thought it was one of the greatest things ever. They were just laughing and were totally entertained by it. And it is crazy just how highly that movie ranks with a lot of audience members, Johnny. So anyway, really interesting list there, dude. All right. Next up, Doshi writes, that mystery 2023 MCU film, I think, is Spider-Man 3. Could be fit in there somewhere. Could be in 2022. We're gonna have to wait and see, but it's not a bad guess, Doshi. Superman Steve writes, John, I seriously cannot tell you how much it would suck if you ever left YouTube. Your show is the absolute best part of my mornings. Well, listen, Superman Steve, if for whatever reason, I'm not saying I'm going to leave YouTube, but let's be clear. I'm just asking what some of the other alternatives are, just in case things go bad with this whole COPA thing. But if I did, I would continue to do the show. I would just do it elsewhere. Whether it would be on Twitch, or whether it would be on Facebook, or whether it would be wherever. Somebody just suggested another place, Storyfires. I can't remember what it was called. I'll go back and look it up a little bit later. But if I stop doing it on YouTube, that doesn't mean I'm stopping doing the show, period. It would just pop up in another form somewhere else. So don't worry about that. It would continue on. All right, Doshi writes, after the Simpsons movie, they made a gag saying, won't wait 20 years for a sequel. It's been 13 years now. Over under 25%. We get one by 2030. I'm going to take the over on that. Now, I also believe that Disney will end The Simpsons at some point, because one of the things I think he said was, I think Matt Groening said, he's not ever going to make a movie while the show is still going again, because he said that was a nightmare. Trying to work on the feature film while cranking out episodes of the show. So I think we are within a couple of years. I think 1 or 2 years. We are within 1 of 2 years of them finally putting an end to the run of The Simpsons. And then as soon as they end The Simpsons, they're going to go into production and go into work on a Simpsons 2. So I believe we will get one by 2030. I will go well over 25% on that. I'll go well over 25% on that. Doshi writes, I love the work you and Rob rocking the Santa beard. I think it's more of an Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator beard. That's how I associate it, Doshi. James Welsh writes, over under 60%, Frozen 3 happens. I will go under. Now, I'm not saying 5%. I'm not saying 10%, but I will go under 60, which means it very well still could happen. Absolutely. But when you see Frozen 2, I kind of felt like they were wrapping it up. But that's just me. So I wouldn't go under 40%, but for now I'll go under 60. Zaya writes, hey, John, I'm in a real dilemma. I'm coming home from college for Thanksgiving, and I really want to see Parasite and Jojo Rabbit. However, I only have room for one film in my schedule. Which one should I watch? Hashtag Sophie's Choice. That is a tough one, man, because this is one of those, Zaya, that we call a no-lose situation. Whichever one you watch, congratulations, you win. Because they are both incredible. I gotta say, for me personally, Jojo Rabbit is by a bit my number 1 film of the year, just over Parasite, which is my number 2 film of the year. So my recommendation would be Jojo, but overall, make sure you watch them both at some point. But I would say get on Jojo Rabbit first. Other people may say the opposite, and that's totally fine, but I would say I lean towards Jojo. And I hope you have safe travels back for the Thanksgiving Day weekend, and I hope you have a wonderful time with friends and family. All right, JCL Productions writes, That new episode of Watchmen, wow. Haven't seen it yet, so no spoilers. Probably one of the best episodes of any TV show in years. Felt like Alejandro Inarritu was directing and Emmanuel Lubezki was DPing, very Birdman-ish at times with creative flair. Have you caught up yet? So good. No, I have not watched yesterday's episode of The Watchmen. I will do that a little bit later today. So I have not watched it yet. I know I loved last week's episode. And I know Robert has seen yesterday's episode, and it's the first episode of Watchmen that Robert said he absolutely loved. Because he's been a little bit on the fence about Watchmen, but he said last night's episode, he said he absolutely loved. So I can't wait to watch it. I just haven't had a chance to watch it. I'll probably watch it as I'm having lunch today. All right. Lanzo writes, Spidey in the Civil War trailer owned the decade. No, I disagree. I mean, it was a really cool moment, but you had to be somebody who was plugged into the MCU, and really it wasn't a wider audience kind of a thing, but it was a great moment. There's no doubt about that, Lanzo. Lee Mallinson writes, for biggest news story, it has to be something divisive. So I'm going to go first pick of Leto as Joker, as nothing created more discussion in the last 10 years. Ooh, I don't know. I still go with my whole thing about Disney purchasing Star Wars. I got everybody talking. It doesn't have to be divisive to be a big story. But I mean, that just dominated everything in the world of movie communities. That just dominated everything. The first picture of Leto as Joker got a lot of people talking, but it was a limited scope, I think. But anyway, it was certainly a big one. It was absolutely a big one. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, here's a good way to remember Kristen Bell's She's Sarah Marshall name. Kristen was saved by the bell. Haha, I love Kristen Bell. And man, I always knew she could sing. I didn't realize how good she can sing. And I like her more and more all the time. My wife, one of her favorite shows right now is The Good Place, which is coming to an end. So she loves her in that. And she's got her own show on Disney Plus right now, which I've not watched yet. It's that Reunion. I think it's called Reunion. It's like a reality-based show. So I haven't watched that yet, but I absolutely loved her. I think she's great. And she was so good in Sarah Marshall. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, One Day at a Time is now the first show to jump from streaming to regular TV. I can't wait. Yeah, and so it's a reboot of the old 70s, 80s show. I never watched it. I never watched the original show because I was too young. I never watched the one on streaming, and I have no intention of watching it. But I remember when they canceled it. What was it, on Netflix? I remember when they canceled it, a lot of people were very upset. But I've never seen it. But that's really interesting. That's a really actually great piece of trivia. It's moving from a streaming service to a regular TV streaming service. We've seen it go the other way around. Like Lucifer was on regular TV, Fox, and now it's on Netflix. But we've never seen it go the other way. That's a really good observation, Ryan. I like that. Taylor Guerin writes, I hope Rise of Skywalker ends with Luke getting power. If you'll excuse me now, the First Order's defeated around his feet. The Emperor's dead. I've got some unfinished business. And then they cut to him at Tosche Station buying some power converters. What a perfect way to end the franchise. I'm with you on that, Taylor. All right, Toba70 writes, I saw Frozen 2. They showed 3 trailers with Tom Holland voice acting in each of them. Spies in Disguise, Doolittle, and Onward. Is he that good at voice acting? I don't know. I just think he's a very popular name right now. Now, for all we know, and by the way, I'm not so excited about Spies in Disguise, but I'm dying to see Onward. They showed us about like 10 minutes of Onward at D23. And it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. So I cannot wait to see that. But how good of a voice actor he is or isn't, I don't know. We'll have to. I think just right now he's a very big name. And he's the right age to put in a number of things. So I think that more has to do with it than anything else. But we'll find out. We'll find out how good or not good he is as some of these movies start coming out. All right, James Argento writes, They Fly Now, Star Wars catchphrase of the week. God, I love that spot. I know it's not going to be for everybody, but I don't care. That spot reeks of Star Wars DNA all over it. I thought it was great. And I'm somebody, I've not been a huge fan of the marketing so far. I've not been a huge fan of the trailers. I like what I've seen, but I've not been all that big on it. I'm not trying to be negative. But everybody knows that. But this spot, God, I love this spot. I thought it was great. I'm surprised how much Rob liked it too. It's kind of crazy. Jay Bling writes, Tim Miller's idea about humanity losing against the AI and sending other soldiers back first to destroy it before it comes to fruition, and the AI sending a Terminator back to stop that would have been a nice role reversal. I disagree with Cameron, but I mean, how does it execute? Just basic the basic premise doesn't tell the story. It really has more about where do you then go from there. So I don't know. It's an interesting idea. It would have been kind of cool, but we've seen it. It's just a role reversal. So I don't know. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm saying I don't really know that I know. I don't know that I have a clear opinion on that one way or the other, because I could see that going bad in a lot of different ways. Matt Jacobsmeyer writes, likely or unlikely, the reason Disney is not showing us Luke is because they are de-aging his Force ghost, similar to Vader/Anakin at the end of the original Return of the Jedi. Possible. Look, what I am buying into is this notion that was brought up by one of the viewers, that I was complaining that they haven't shown us the Emperor or Luke in the trailers. I think that's a massive mistake. However, what some of the viewers point out to me is like, John, maybe there's something very spoilerish about their appearance. What if Luke is in the flesh and he's alive? You can't show that in the trailers. You're right. Or if not that, what if it's something else like that? What if Palpatine is a ghost? You can't show that in the trailers. That gives away a big plot point. You're right. So I don't know if that specifically would be it, Matt. It's a possibility. But I am buying into the notion that there's something very definitive about the appearance, the physical appearance of Palpatine and the appearance of Luke, that if we saw them now would constitute a major spoiler for the films. And I'm buying now into that theory that that's why they haven't been showing to us. Whether that's true or not, we'll find out soon enough. All right, HV3 writes, with the whole COPA thing, to help protect yourself, could you put a thing on the bottom of the video saying, this video is not for children. If you are under the age of 13, please turn this video off. Again, it wouldn't help. It wouldn't mean a thing. Because if an FTC person saw the video and said, yeah, you put that there, but that's just a cop-out, you are clearly targeting kids with your content. Even if you say you're not, your content says you are. So that would really not do anything. So believe me, that's something I thought about too, HV3. And I wish it were that simple. Otherwise, everybody doing we're doing a Sesame Street sing-along. And then they could just put at the bottom of the video, this video is not for children. Well, clearly it is. And clearly you're just putting that as a way to get around having to mark your video as for kids. And so it really wouldn't help. It really wouldn't help. But God, I wish it were that easy, dude. It's a great idea. And thank you for giving me ideas. But unfortunately, that's something that wouldn't work. Lawrence Tan just sends in a couple of super chats. Thank you, Lawrence, for supporting the channel, man. We appreciate that, dude. All right. Next up, Nick Garula writes, or Jarula, there you go. Thank you for giving me the pronunciation. I appreciate that because I'm terrible with names. The other day while watching episode 3 of The Mandalorian, I decided I want to see a Disney short with Baby Yoda, Baby Groot, and their caretaker Korg. I think this would be hilarious. Oh, now that would have to be just they would have, number one, you have to do that animated. But if Disney did a fun little short, a little animated short, of Baby Groot and Baby Yoda being babysat by Korg, sign me up. Sign me up. I would watch the shit out of that video. I would watch the shit out of that video. Oh my God, that would be hilarious. I love the idea, Nick. All right. Froygon Jin writes, assuming Dark Rey is a clone, which we gotta be careful about our assumptions, but that is one of the theories. Not a vision, over under 50% that her body is the new host for the Emperor. That is becoming a popular theory. That the Emperor inhabits a cloned body of Rey, or that Rey herself is a clone and that cloning is part of it, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. It's definitely theory. I don't think that's what they're doing, but 15 is such a low number, I'll actually take the over. I still don't think it's likely that that's what they're going to do, but I will take the over on 15% because that's a good low number there, so I'll go over on that. Ben Rayner writes, keep one, lose one, Family Man or Matchstick Men? Now listen, I know that's a great question. I know a lot of people will keep Matchstick Men. I personally have an appreciation for the Family Man that a lot of other people don't. And Téa Leoni's in that one with them, with Nicolas Cage. And they're both solid movies. but I seem to like The Family Man more than most people do. So for me, the one I'm keeping is Family Man. It would suck to lose Matchstick Men because I like that movie too. But I really like The Family Man. Great question, Ben. I like that. Bames John writes, will Super Chat continue alongside tipping? Yes. If you are somebody who're just more comfortable using the Super Chat feature, as you can see, you just sent in a Super Chat. It's totally still here. Will totally be a part of it. So thank you for contributing in whichever way you contributed. I thank you for that, Bames. All right. Daniel Hinoja writes, if no movie is perfect, why do some reviewers say a certain movie is not perfect when reviewing it? If it's already a given, then it's not really a flaw. Well, people saying a movie isn't perfect isn't a flaw. It's just, well, like when I will say something like that, it's to just give a like if I'm going off about how much I love a movie, I'll want to make sure nobody thinks I'm misinterprets what I'm saying as if I'm saying this is the greatest movie of all time. No, so if I'm really raving about a movie and I want to just make sure I pump the brakes on a little bit, I'll say, now look, I'm not saying it's perfect. It's certainly not a perfect movie. It has some issues. And yeah, those issues could be flaws. I think a lot of times what film critics and even just regular film fans, when they throw that in, it's just basically a little reminder to say, now don't misinterpret what I'm saying as if I'm saying this is the greatest movie ever. Because like I can talk about I don't know, what's a movie I really love this year? I don't know, I don't know. I start raving about Endgame, right? I can start raving about Avengers Endgame. But then, like, while talking about all the things I love, I go, no, look, it's not a perfect movie. It has its flaws. It's not a perfect film. And it's not a perfect film, and it does have its flaws. But that's just kind of a way of pumping the brakes on it more than just saying, oh, this movie is bad because it's not perfect. You know, I don't think that's what they're saying. So that's how I take that, Daniel, whenever I see somebody say that, because that's how I use it myself as well. Let's see. Evil John Campea writes, seen Frozen 2 and thought it was better than the first, but the songs were better in the original film, except for the clearly 80s inspired Lost in the Woods. That song is hilarious. The song itself is okay, but the song in the movie, you guys will see what I'm talking about, is absolutely hilarious. Did you guys like the song and thoughts? I did like it. I did. And I'm a little bit different. I actually think overall, personally, the music in Frozen 2 is better than the music in Frozen 1, except for Let It Go. Let It Go is still the best song out of either of the movies, but I really did like the music, and Lost in the Woods is just one of them. Lost in the Woods, Some Things Never Change, Show Yourself, Into the Unknown, I think is a wonderful, wonderful piece. So overall, even though I think Let It Go is the better song out of all of them, I thought overall the music in the second one was a little bit better, but it's certainly just entertaining, and I'm glad you liked it, Evil John Campea. All right, next up, The Nerdy Hatter writes, John, the heavy Mando from episode 3 is indeed Jon Favreau as Paz Vizsla, a descendant of his Clone Wars character. Yeah, they did mention that, which I thought was a really cool thing. A lot of people are saying the who's, the what's now? I know, even a lot of people who watch Mandalorian have no idea what that means. But yes, that was Jon Favreau. Now, I don't know if that was Jon Favreau in the suit or if it was just him doing a voice. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check that. But it's an interesting little piece of trivia, Nerdy Hatter. Thanks for sending that in, man. TLCAZ writes, thanks for recommending Float. Haven't had a good sob in a while. Float is so good. Float is a new Pixar short that is on Disney+. It's not the best Pixar short that they've ever done, but it's really sweet. And it's really nice. And you're right, TLC. It tugs on the heartstrings, man. It really does. All right. Sergio Arma writes, where are we? How much money do you think JW3 earned in the studio? How much money do you think Jurassic World 3? There hasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but there hasn't been a Jurassic World 3 yet. I'm sorry, Serge. I'm not really clear on what it is we're asking. Sorry about that, dude. Roberto Suarez just sends in a tip to support the channel. Thank you, Roberto. Appreciate that, man. Lord Doorknob writes, hey all, what do you prefer, doorknobs or handles? I know what I prefer. I'll tell you what, and I'm not just saying this to pander to the audience. I'm a fan of doorknobs. I just am. Now, don't get me wrong, a really good, well-designed, especially on a big double door, like some majestic looking door handles. No getting away from that, but for the average door, I like doorknob. Yeah, I just do. I like Doorknob a little bit better. There. Okay. Tom Waters writes, "Hi, John. When are you going to be doing the Fallen Order play and chats? I'm really enjoying the game and story. Thanks. As soon as I have time." That's been my problem, is I have had no time to actually sit down and do that. I did get it set up so I could do the play and chat with the game, but I just haven't had time to do it. And I'm not going to have time today because this afternoon, Ann and I are going to the LA Rams Monday Night Football game, and it starts at 5 o'clock Los Angeles time. So we got to leave it around 3 to beat all the traffic and get there. So I'm not going to be able to do it today. Hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow I will be able to do a play and chat of Jedi Fallen Order. And it's a great story. It really is. So thanks for asking. Oliver Jamie writes, "John, as a movie and TV show review being your job, what TV brand and model do you own? How are you liking it? Love your show." I don't know. I've got a 45-inch Roku built-in 4K TV in my bedroom, and I couldn't tell you the name, the make of it. And I've got a 75-inch. I take it, my 75-inch TV downstairs, I believe, is a Samsung. So I've got a 75-inch 4K TV hanging above the fireplace downstairs. That, I believe, is a Samsung. And I'm loving it. I adore it. It's fantastic. And but I couldn't tell you the model. I don't really follow that stuff that much. They all look good to me. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I'm really enjoying my Samsung, I got to say. And I got it for a great price. So that's what I'm leaning towards. All right. Let's see. Samir Tesfai writes, "Biggest news of the decade. Number 1, 2012, Disney buys Lucasfilm. Absolutely agree. Number 2, Netflix becomes a streaming and studio powerhouse. Number 3, 2012's The Avengers. That's true too. There would be no Endgame if Avengers 1 didn't work. That's true. Thank you, Joss Whedon. Indeed, that's some good ones because you named one that I named, then you named one that Robert named, and then you named one. You're right. Avengers was that. I keep telling people, a lot of people disagree with me on this, and that's fine. But that we do not live in this age of comic book movies right now and the dominance they have were it not for Avengers. That first Avengers movie that Joss Whedon did, it blew the doors open. It opened the imaginations to everybody what comic book movies today could be. And I'm not saying, well, I do think it's the best comic book movie ever made, personally. But even if you don't believe that, I believe it is the most important comic book movie ever made. Because it is, if that movie did not work the way it worked, we do not have, the comic book movie landscape today looks different. I'm not going to say it wouldn't exist, but I'm going to say it would look significantly different. And so I'm with you on that, Samir. That's a really great observation. All right. We just got a couple of minutes here left, guys, so we're going to fly through as many as we can here. Asian Fetish writes, "Did you hear that Tim Miller wanted the humans to lose at the end of Terminator Dark Fate? It was James Cameron who insisted the humans win. So isn't it James Cameron who's responsible for the samey and rehash feel of Dark Fate?" Well, hold a second. Let's not pretend like Terminator franchise didn't already do the humans lose at the end. They did. Remember the one with... from Claire Danes. The one with Claire Danes, that one ends with humans losing. They're fighting and fighting and fighting, trying to stop the Judgment Day, and they get to the end, and it turns out they didn't. Remember, that one ends with the nukes falling. Remember? The humans lose. So let's not pretend like that hasn't been done before either. Look, there's nothing you can do that with a Terminator franchise, which might be why it's time to put it to bed for a while, that doesn't have some sense of sameness to it. It all does. The one particular plot point doesn't really contribute to that. And again, let's not pretend like they didn't do that already in the Terminator franchise. They did do that already in the Terminator franchise. So yeah, I'm not sure. And remember, look, James Cameron didn't direct the film. Maybe he should have. But, I mean, it kind of turned out the way that did. But it's an interesting observation, Asian Fetish. Tony Rodriguez writes, "I saw A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Oh, and I still got to see that. This past Saturday. What an inspiring film. Hanks does Fred Rogers justice. The rest of the cast are also amazing as well. I still can't believe I didn't see that the minute it came out, especially understanding that Tom Hanks is Anne's number one favorite human being on the planet. So you think I would have been the first in line to see it. I totally should have been, and I totally forgot that it opened the same weekend. So We're going to maybe, depending if we can catch a late show, we're thinking after we're done with the Monday Night Football game and watching the Rams play tonight, we're thinking we go right from the game, maybe to a movie theater to watch it, because I got to get caught up on that, man. So anyway, thanks, James, for giving me the recommendation, because I got to get on that. All right. Eddie Burton writes, despite a very limited release, The Irishman still made a little over $4 million at the box office in 2 weeks. Does that change your mind on how it would have done at the box office if given a wide release? No. No, it really doesn't. Because, got to remember, the markets that those played in were very select markets. Like, you put something like that out in LA, it's going to sell out every show. Of course it will in LA. But I really, no, doesn't change my mind about that at all. I think the studios were right about that. I really do. You're not often going to hear me say that, but I think the studios were absolutely right about that. And nope, doesn't change my mind about that one little bit. Sam Fisher writes, the movie La Vita El Bella I mentioned the other day, we already covered this. But it was so good, you had to say it again, Sam. No problem. Brent Robinson writes, not expecting this to happen at all, but wouldn't it be awesome if Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker began with the 20th Century Fox fanfare? No, it would be absolutely stupid. It would be stupid and disrespectful and a lie. Because Fox had nothing to do with the making of this movie. I've said this before. I'll say it again. And listen, I'm as nostalgic about the 20th Century Fox fanfare at the beginning too. I am. But 20th Century Fox had nothing to do with the making of this movie. So number one, it would be a lie. But number two, it would be a spit in the face and completely disrespectful to the hundreds and thousands of people who worked for years to make this movie, for you to put another company's name at the very beginning of it. It's totally a spit in the face and it's totally disrespectful. And it's wrong. It's just morally wrong. Imagine this is the best example I have. Imagine you work at a company and you're tasked by the executives to put this big proposal together. And you work for 3 years putting this study and proposal together. And you worked on it. Nobody else, you. And you put in 3 years of your life, blood, sweat, and tears, work and effort. And then comes the day, finally, after 3 years, the day the proposal is going to be presented. And your manager comes to you and say, hey, you know what? Everybody really likes Bobby. Can you put Bobby's name on the front page? Can you say this proposal by Bobby? It's just that they really like proposals by Bobby. Would you mind putting Bobby's name on the front of it, not yours? Put Bobby's name up first. You would say, fuck you. And you would leave and you would get on jobmonster.com and start looking for another job, because it would totally be them spitting in your face. For what? So for 5 seconds, we can get a little chill up our spine and nostalgia. And remember, I get as big of a chill as anybody seeing that 20th Century Fox logo play. I do. But it would be completely wrong, improper, completely a spit in the face on every level. It is wrong. So no, it would not be cool if they did that. It would be a totally inappropriate. Totally inappropriate. Not for the sake of just getting that 5 second little, ooh, that's it. We're talking about doing all that just so for 5 seconds we can get a little, ooh, that's cool. Not worth it. Not worth it. So, and again, it's just a big lie because they didn't work on the film at all. So I would say, I hate to be the wet blanket on this, but I would say no, it'd be totally inappropriate and totally wrong for them to do that. That's just my take on that, Brent, though. Anyway, and believe me, Brent, you're not alone in asking that. I've had a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people have mentioned to me what you've just mentioned. So you're not alone on that, my friend. Right. Baby Angry. I like that name, writes. With new tipping system, going to be hard to get a question answered on your live show. Even with Super Chat, we had to tip right at the start of the show, but now since people can tip 24/7, it'll be next to impossible since they can tip hours in. No, well, hey, listen, we've been doing pretty good lately getting through. And when we do have a few that can't be answered, which happened all the time, we do a companion video and they get their own video. So I wouldn't worry about it. I think this is going to work out great. It's working out great so far today. Darth Sidious writes, hi, John. Why does the tip page only support PayPal? I'm not sure. That's a good, I don't know why the system, I think PayPal is very universal and very easy for people to sign up for and use, but it's not my choice. That's just what the system is. And it seems to work pretty well. So yeah, you would have to ask the people at Streamlabs or Stream Elements why that's the case, but it seems to work, and it's very international and it's very broad, so that just seems to be the one they work with, and it works great for me, so there's that. Lone Wolf writes, John Robb, 13 more days till Crisis. I'm excited. John, I know you hate Supergirl and don't watch Legends, but do you put them on for the crossover episodes? What are your guys most excited to see? 3 Supermen or Kevin Conroy? No, I am not going to watch either Supergirl or Legends of Tomorrow just to lead into Crisis. I'm going to watch Crisis. I'm excited for Crisis. But I'll tell you what's not exciting for me. I'm not excited about the 3 Supermen. I'm not against it. I'm just saying that's an interesting thing to me, not the thing that gets me excited. The Kevin Conroy thing, it's just a little token fan service thing they're doing, so I'm not excited for it. It's interesting. I'm not against it. It's interesting, but it's not the thing that gets me excited. I'm just excited because every year I enjoy the Flash and Arrow crossover stories. I just really enjoy them. The one they did 2 years ago wasn't so hot, but generally speaking, I always like their annual crossover stories. But the thing that excites me for them is Flash and Arrow. Those are the parts that excite me for it. So those are the things that are getting me pumped for it. These other things are cool. These other things are nice little accoutrements. They're nice little like accents you put on it. You know, nice little flair. They're perfectly fine, but they're not the things that get me excited. The things that get me excited are the core main things. Flash and Arrow in a crossover story. That's what gets me. Anyway, Jack Cena writes, I would say Harvey Weinstein controversy is one of the biggest news of the decade. Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that. It's hard to disagree with that, Jack. That would absolutely have to rank up there as well. Can't disagree with you on that. It would have to absolutely rank up there as well. Let's see, where are we at here? Brian Clark writes, biggest movie news story of the decade, the fall of Harvey Weinstein and the rise of cancel culture. Again, it's hard to disagree about the Harvey Weinstein thing. That's a pretty good point. Matthias Peterson writes, wow, Mandalorian. I love the amount of emotion that comes through that helmet. You know, Ann and I talked about that on our Mandalorian spoiler review. It is crazy how much emotion they are somehow able to communicate while he's wearing that damn mask. It's crazy how they're able to do that, and it's really, really impressive. And one of the things that makes this show work. Absolutely, Matthias. All right. No writes, I didn't know anything about Deadpool when I first saw X-Men Origins Wolverine, so I didn't consider his mouth to be shown a flaw in the film. I still don't. And hey, that is one of the advantages about being an audience member coming from a different point of view. Now, to everybody who knows anything about Deadpool, and his main nickname is the Merc with the Mouth, sewing shut the mouth of Deadpool was kind of a dumb thing to do. And Ryan Reynolds talks about that all the time. But absolutely no. If you come at it from the perspective that you're coming at it from, that you've never known Deadpool or anything like that and what it meant, then that wouldn't have been as big of a thing for you. And that's kind of an advantage, I suppose. So good observation. All right. Last couple of ones that we're going to take here, and then we're going to have to wrap it up for the day, guys. Jason Lachance writes, hello from Quebec. I love Quebec, actually. With new Asgard now on Earth, do you think humans will make technological advancements in upcoming movies because of their relation with Asgardians? I don't know that Asgardians are going to be sharing that technology. And on top of that, it doesn't look to me like the Asgardians are really living with their technology. It looks like the Asgardians, when we see them in Endgame, it looks more like they're just getting back to their roots. I don't see flying, horse carriages going back and forth. It's just a fisher's village, and they're living like, the Nordic. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. So, and even if they were using their technology, I don't know that they'd be keen on sharing their technology. So I don't think we've got a Wakanda situation there. I'm going to lean towards, I don't think we've got a Wakanda situation there. Manny Garcia writes, the Landmark Theater in LA is having a Knives Out Q&A with Rian Johnson. And you know what? The ArcLight Cinema in Hollywood is having 4 days of Q&As with Rian Johnson this week. So I would say if you're in LA and you want it, first of all, you've got to see Knives Out. It is fantastic. And if you want to see with the Q&A with the director, you're going to have a lot of opportunities. The LA The Landmark Theater in LA apparently is doing it, and the ArcLight in Hollywood has multiple screenings of it. Just go to either one of their websites and you should be able to get your information for that. All right. HV3 writes, John, is there a Snyder Cut? Why does it keep coming back like a bad meme? Here's the thing. Again, a quick thing. Does something exist that you could call the Snyder Cut? Absolutely. I've always said there is. There are apples in the grocery bag. Always said that such a thing exists. Does a fully 100% completed, color-corrected, visual effects, sound engineered, ready to be released today to a paying audience version exist? No, that doesn't exist. Money would have to be put in it. Zack Snyder himself has said at conventions on several occasions that he's got a cut. As a matter of fact, he's got several cuts, but that WB would need to finish them because he's got a total cut that you could sit down and watch, but it's not a complete, ready to be released thing. It's going to take a lot more money to put into it. Everybody at all the studios have all confirmed this. So does a Snyder Cut exist? Depending on how you mean by that, yes, absolutely. Does a fully 100% completed, ready to be released to the public today, right now, without a single ounce of more work being put into it exist? No, that's been confirmed by the studios many times. All right. Where are we at here? Tristan Larson writes, you are the one I've been waiting for. Elsa, chills. I love this movie. I loved it. By the way, my favorite line from the movie is a line from the trailer where the one sister says, you can't just run after me into fire. And the sister says back to her, then don't run into fire. I love that line. I just love the line in that thing. All right. Stefan DeLint Wooters writes, always wanted to send you money, and finally I'm able to. Been a long time since I've heard you talk about Inside Out. Oh, God, I love that movie. My all-time favorite movie. Which scene affected you the most? For me, it was Joy asking Sadness to help at the end. Cry time. It's right around that. It's practically the same scene. But it's when, and I forget the little girl's name. Who's the main character of the story. But it's when she comes back from the bus station. And I won't give too much away for those who haven't seen Inside Out. This is a purely gorgeous, beautiful movie. And she finally, after trying to be strong for her parents and holding it all in, when the sadness of what she has lost and the sadness of her situation, which would be a huge deal to a kid that age, finally comes out. It is a remarkably beautiful, wonderfully directed, intensely done scene that I just effing love. It is such a beautiful moment. And it just overall, Inside Out is an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful work by Pixar. And that's how good Pixar is, because, it's another Pixar film. That's how good Pixar is. That we look at a movie like Inside Out as a middle-of-the-road Pixar film. That's how good Pixar films are, and Inside Out is absolutely one of those. All right. Listen, guys, for all of you guys still having outstanding questions, is Mark, Advanced Junior, Marie Seafring, Dread, and all the way up. Do not worry. Oh, you know what? Those are all the questions we have left. You know what? Let's just keep pushing. We'll get these finished off. Mark Battleotto writes, disappointed that Frasier is leaving Netflix next month. My favorite show. Everything on Netflix is very unpredictable now. It's tougher and tougher to keep up with what shows will be on what service. I think the rumored revival will be on CBS All Access. Yeah, for those who haven't heard, apparently they're going to be doing a revival of Frasier. But yeah, that's the nature of the streaming service. Some things come, some things go, and it's hard to keep on top of where all those things happen and when they come and all that kind of stuff. But they're still going to be around. You're still going to be able to see it. It's just that it may not be on Netflix or on the same streaming service for an awfully long time. It's just a part of the changing environment we have. I almost missed, thank you, somebody pointed out that I missed HV3's question they put in there. So thank you for bringing that up. HV3 writes, I will watch your show on YouTube. I will watch your show on Twitch. I will watch your show on Patreon only. I will watch your show anywhere. I would think if you went to Patreon only that your Patreon subscribers would go way up. It is possible. Don't laugh. I have considered that. Actually, Ann and I were talking about that if we moved the John Campea Show off of YouTube and went exclusively to a Patreon only, kind of became like a streaming service. In a way, kind of become like a Disney Plus or whatever, where, all the content is for Patreon supporters and would be on the Patreon page and $10 a month or whatever that we would ask. Anne pointed out to me, she goes, you won't get anywhere near the number of viewers. But if you had like 5,000 Patreon supporters at $10 a month, you would be able to pay everybody. You'd be able to pay all the bills. You'd be able to pay yourself a salary. You'd be able to get a separate studio space outside of the house. I mean, there's so many things we could do, even if all we had were 5,000 people watching the show, but they were all subscribers and paying $10 a month. And I'm not going to lie, that was a little bit appealing. There are also some big drawbacks with that. So again, with this whole COPA thing, I just got some things to work out. I think what is most likely here is that we're just going to stay on YouTube and we'll figure out the COPA thing. But I'm keeping all the options open, HV3, keeping all the options open. Anyway, thank you for pointing out that I had missed that question there. Let's see. Where are we at here? Mark, that was Mark we did. Advanced Junior writes, I imagined talking about any movie shows that are rated PG or below, or it seems like it puts you in a difficult position. It does. That would suck if the lawyers tell you to only discuss PG-13 rated movies and higher. Fingers crossed, we are all here for you. Yeah, I mean, that would suck. Because if that were to happen, I'm sorry, I like to talk about all movies. I like to talk about Parasite. I like to talk about Avengers Endgame. I like to talk about Jojo Rabbit. And I like to talk about Frozen 2. I like to talk about Toy Story 4. I mean, I like to talk about all movies. And if suddenly I was told that on YouTube, I couldn't talk about all these other things. And by the way, what if some FTC guy says, oh, you made a video about Spider-Man. Spider-Man appeals to kids. So we're going to say that your video is for kids. What are you talking about? I mean, again, I'm just panicking a little bit. It's probably not going to be that bad. Again, I'm going to talk to my lawyers and see where we go from things, but it would really suck if something like that came out. All right, Marie Seifring writes, Miss Tony Rodriguez's question about who composes music for your channel. Oh, see, it looks like I missed a couple of them. Where's Tony? Tony. There we go. Okay. See, I'm sorry, guys. So many questions. I miss a couple sometimes. I'm human. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize about that. But thank you for pointing that out, Marie. Tony Rodriguez writes, hey, John, you missed my question last week. I was curious, who's composing the music for all the shows, AMC to now? No, I answered that question. Maybe it was in the companion video. You know what, Tony? It might have been in the companion, but I remember I answered that question. So, I have composed over the years from the movie blog on. There's some music that I've composed myself, but as of right now and lately, I just find a piece of music that I like and then I license the rights to that music. So the music that you hear that is the opening song for the John Campea Show, that is actually music that I found and then I just licensed because I thought it worked well for the show. Because I was too lazy to try to compose and record something myself. So I just found and by the way, the music I license is way better than anything I could come up with. So that's how I get that. Anyway, thank you, Marie, for giving me that heads up. Dread writes, hey, John, it's been a while since I donated anything, but I wanted to ask, what is one of your best guilty pleasure movies to watch? Mine is Galaxy Quest. Just love that movie. Oh, dude, there is nothing guilty pleasure about Galaxy Quest. What are you talking about, brother? There is nothing guilty pleasure about that at all. Galaxy Quest is just awesome. When I talk guilty pleasure movies, there's two that come to mind. One is Cool as Ice, starring Vanilla Ice. It is the best bad movie of all time. Cool as Ice with Vanilla Ice is the most awesome, terrible movie you'll ever see. And then another one is a movie that a lot of people hate, but I really enjoy, and that's Armageddon. With Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck. I really enjoy that movie. But I know a lot of people hate it, so I'll call it a guilty pleasure. So that's one for me. All right, final question of the day. Comes to us from Stefan de Lint Werters, who writes, Inside Out became my all-time favorite movie because I first saw it at a particularly difficult time in my life. It is crazy, dude, how a lot of us will develop those emotional attachments to certain movies. That's why Clerks 2 is so special to me, because I watched it at a particular time in my life when I was going something very specific that movie really spoke to. But at any rate, it learned me to listen to my emotions and not be scared of them. A couple of days after watching it, I finally seek the help I need. That is awesome to hear. And and again, I think that is a great testimony to the power of movies and movie fandom and storytelling. You know, listen, there's a reason. If you go back to the most ancient recorded history of us as a species, we have been storytellers. And there's a reason for that. There's a power in the telling of true or fictional, whatever. There's a power in stories. And how sometimes stories can speak to us on a deeper level than just conversations can. Not always. I'm just saying sometimes. And I think that's a tremendous example of that, Stefan. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that means a lot. And I think that really says something. All right, guys. That will do it. We're all caught up on for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of it. I had a really good time today. That was a lot of fun. Listen, guys, as always, if you haven't seen it, you can look down below. The very first line of the description of this video is a link to the tip. If you got an idea or a question you want to ask or a comment you want to make that will be read on tomorrow's show, you can go to that tip link and leave a tip anytime you want and leave your question, comment, or whatever there. And it's there. And by the way, once again, if you are I don't expect people to use this a lot because it's pretty high, but if you want your own video made for your topic, your own 3 to 5 minute video, use the tip feature, submit $50 or more, and we'll turn into your own topic. Again, I don't expect many people to use that at all, but if you did and you wanted to see it cut out into your own topic in your own video, I will do that as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here today, making today a lot of fun. Special thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett, who was here a little bit earlier. Of course, Robert will be back again tomorrow for the John Campea Show. Thank you to all of you for watching this, and a special thank you to all of you guys who submitted in questions, whether you're using Super Chat or the tip feature. Not just because you gave us great fun things to talk about, and you did give us a lot of great topics today, but also because you supported the channel while you were doing it. And all of us here at the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you for that deeply. All right, guys, that will do it for me for now. Thanks a lot for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.